One. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a very special edition of the Rock Fantasy Files. I'm your host, James. Stephen couldn't be here tonight because he's currently being questioned by the FBI about why he's on the Epstein list so many times.
Mm.
So there's that. A little bit of levity before what's about to
That,
be
that's actually
probably.
Juan Epstein's list.
Oh, right. Yes. Signed Juan Epstein's mom.
Yeah.
Gonna be a pretty fucking what I think is gonna be a somber episode tonight. We are going to talk about the life and times and our memories of the one and only Ozzy Osbourne, who just passed away just over 24 hours ago that we got the news anyway, at the age of 76. So I got a killer panel tonight with Ovi from Norway, Miles from Louisiana, Tony Dio from North Kakalaki, our historian Count Ralphus, and Mr. Ed Farsty. What is up, fellas? Um, I know I have had a very hard 2 days. I've been crying a lot, and when I think I'm fucking all out of tears, more come, and it's just been fucking brutal. So I guess we'll just keep it random and just go around to everybody. And I guess the first question is, how did you guys get into Ozzy? What was the first experience? Um, was it a first album, first single, something on TV, something on the radio, whatever? How did you discover Ozzy, and how did you get into him? Sound good?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So with I'm gonna go with Tony Dio. I got like everybody sort of in a circle, so I'm gonna go around and start with Tony Dio. How did you get into Ozzy?
Um, I was thinking earlier, I think the first time I ever heard Ozzy was kid brought like Crazy Train 45 single to like the music class, because in elementary school they used to have music class where you would just learn about music and you maybe would play a little flutophone or recorder, they call them nowadays. And but on Fridays, I think like they would let you bring records and play records. And a kid brought Crazy Train, and I think that's the first time I ever heard the song. And I had no clue who Ozzy Osbourne was at that time. I mean, that was probably like 1981 or something. And so I started getting more into, music and stuff. We've told how we became a metalhead before and stuff. And I talked about my friend who had a lot of stuff that he turned me on to, but I don't recall him. He never had any Black Sabbath or anything. And just, I had got into like, I was more into new wave and stuff at the time. Of course, I still like Kiss and stuff like that. But this probably around sometime in 82, someone on the school bus, an older kid, gave me a TDK cassette and had Blizzard of Oz on one side, Heaven and Hell on the other. So I got my whole Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Dio history there, and or basically introduction on that one cassette. And I really liked it. The Blizzard of Oz album. I thought it was great. I was like, oh yes, that song Crazy Train, of course, And I started buying rock magazines and stuff, and seeing Ozzy, and he just looked so crazy and so wild. And by that time, by like 82, this was the Ozzy record that, I mean, Blizzard, I mean, a Diary, of course, was out, but this is what you'd see when you go out. You always saw the Speak of the Devil record. I mean, he just looks so menacing on that, so crazy. Like, what is that in his mouth? You know, and you start hearing the stories. Oh yeah, Ozzy Osbourne, that guy, like, man, he like eats animals on stage and stuff like that. You start hearing the rumors and stuff. So yeah, I had someone ended up recording me Diary of a Madman. Thought that cover was pretty wicked as well. And but I was getting into everything at one time and just discovering all this stuff. But the first Ozzy record I bought with my own money, just to go out and buy a real, manufactured copy was Speak of the Devil, and I bought it on cassette, and that was because of that album cover. And I had no clue that these are Black Sabbath songs I listened to, because the only Black Sabbath I had heard up until then was Heaven and Hell. The Heaven and Hell that was on that one side of that cassette, and I had the soundtrack to Heavy Metal, the movie Heavy Metal, because I bought it because Devo was on it, and I was such a Devo fan. I bought the soundtrack, and I heard Mob Rules from Sabbath with Dio on that.
Nice.
So started just getting into Ozzy, and then somewhere down the line in the next year or so, I ended up picking up Black Sabbath's Greatest Hits, the record with the Triumph of Death album cover, and listening to that, and and just thinking, wow, these songs sound so old, because it sounded like it was primitive compared to what I had been listening to on Speak of the Devil, with more 80s. I mean, that was basically Van Halen playing Black Sabbath, because Brad Gillis plays a lot like Eddie Van Halen and that style that he plays in. And so did Randy. Of course, Randy had his own style, but still, it was very modern metal sounding compared to what Sabbath had done in the past. And I just kind of grew from there. And by '84, I'd see my first Ozzy concert, the Bark at the Moon tour, which was awesome, with Accept opening. And so just kind of just went from there. I mean, I probably saw just about every Ozzy tour after that, up through all the Ozfest stuff. And we were doing Almost Human last night talking, and Ralph Vieira brought up, when was the last time you saw Ozzy? And I started thinking, it's probably been 20 years, because I don't remember seeing an Ozzy show since the Ozfest at Maiden were on. And so that was Sabbath headlining. I don't recall if I've seen another Ozzy show since then. So sometimes it gets to be a blur when you sing somebody so many times, but I'd really have to go back and think and look at ticket stubs. And I think it may have been about 20 years since I've seen it. Wow. But I did see him quite a bit in the time period from '84 to 2005. I know I saw him quite a few times with solo and with Sabbath. And Sabbath was one of those bands I thought I'd never get a chance to see. And of course they came around and started playing again during the Ozfest, period. So got to see them several times. That was great.
That's awesome. Ed Farsty, what do you got, brother?
Well, it was the first time I discovered Ozzy, late 70s. Listening to the radio, I would have heard Iron Man and Paranoid.
Could you get a little closer, Ed?
Oh, sure. Late 70s. Was the first time I really discovered Ozzy or heard him. I listened to the radio a lot back in the 70s, of course, discovering new music, rock and roll, early metal, whatever, and discovered Black Sabbath. Iron Man, Paranoid were the two singles they were playing. And I actually picked up, at the time, the first 7-inch I ever got was my Black Sabbath Paranoid Iron Man 7-inch. It was a re-release 7-inch. They put both singles on the one 7-inch. The other Ralph, we were talking about that a few months ago, and he brought that up. So I didn't even know what the hell that 7-inch was about. It's like a promo 7-inch. So that was the first Black Sabbath record I had. From there, like I said, just like Tony said, I didn't really know, who Ozzy was. It was just, Black Sabbath was a band. I heard a couple songs, got the 7-inch. About probably a year or so later, Paranoid was the first album I picked up. So when he left, again, I really didn't. I mean, I bought Circus and Faces and the Hit Parader and magazines. So that's the metal news that I picked up on. So when Ozzy left Sabbath, or was out of Sabbath, I knew about it. Again, I wasn't that familiar with it, but I knew the bands, I knew the names. And then when he came out with Blizzard of Oz, I was like, oh, wait, that's Ozzy from Black Sabbath. So I picked it up, and I fucking just loved that album. Absolutely loved it. I liked Black Sabbath a lot. I love Black Sabbath a lot more now than when I first discovered them. I just liked them, just like I liked Eric Clapton and a whole bunch of other stuff back in the 70s. But the first Ozzy album, that's when I was really starting to get into metal, by '81. So I love Blizzard of Oz. That was just like, wow, this album is amazing. Ozzy is God. Ozzy is amazing. First time I saw him live would have been the Bark of the Moon tour, except the car I was in broke down on the way there. We actually,
Oh,
we actually broke an axle. We just crossed over the Whitestone Bridge. We're heading heading towards Jersey and the Bronx, and broke an axle. So we sat on the
Fuck.
side of the road for like 4 hours waiting for a tow and totally missed the show.
Oh,
That sucked. And you mentioned Accept open. We had Motley Crue opening up here. But
yeah,
wow.
we thought we were getting Motley Crue when I went, and we had no clue, and we got there, and someone said it was Accept, and they blew me away. Yeah.
Sure, I would love to see Accept, but I wouldn't have seen any band anyway that night. So the first time I actually saw him live would have been the next tour. I think that was probably 86 or 87, probably 86. Seen him a bunch of times, not as many times as Tony. I would have seen him probably 2 or 3 times in the 80s. And then I got into thrash metal and death metal, and Ozzy was kind of like, he's old hack by then, unfortunately. In 91, I was out at the Foundations Forum out in California with Roadrunner Records, and Ozzy was one of like the big stars that weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see him play live because it was a limited. Basically, you had to be one of the big executives to go in or pay a lot of money, and I was like, "Fuck it!" So I just hung out with the other bands. But that's when I kind of rediscovered Ozzy. I was like, holy shit, because they were playing Ozzy videos and songs in the hotel room. And I was like, for the No More Tears album. And I was just like, wow, this is great Ozzy again. This is killer stuff. And so I totally got back into them again. And like Tony mentioned, I think the last time I would have seen him live probably was that Black Sabbath tour. Because I think Ozzy toured solo once, maybe twice after that, but I did not go for different reasons. And then I kept saying, when Ozzy tours, I'm gonna go, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go for the last 10 years. And it just never happened.
The last
So
time they played our area was PNC, and it was I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it was Ozzy, Five Finger Death Punch, and maybe Megadeth. But I remember not caring because of the lineup and stuff, and I was like, and that's a long ride down there, you know. But I had a friend that went. He ended up getting me this hat, and it's from the No More tours too.
yep.
And he caught the last appearance. It was his only time ever seeing Ozzy. He was a younger dude, and he ended up being the last time that Ozzy played our area. You know.
At least he went to see it. At least he saw it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah.
The same reason. I would not have gone for that. I was like, Five Finger Death Punch, Megadeth. No, I don't
Yeah.
care. And
Yeah.
again, Ozzy was like, I don't really like Ozzy's newer material, so I would have passed on it. That was a mistake. A mistake I will not make again. Now it's like if a band tours, I'm like, I've got to go. I'm going. So
yeah.
John
Awesome.
made it.
Welcome to the fold, John McInty. It's nice to have you.
What's shaking, yo? Good to be here.
Absolutely. So we are talking about, to fill you in, we're talking about our first experiences getting into Ozzy, hearing him for the first time. What's the first album you got? When's the first time you saw him live? All that kind of shit. So we just heard from Tony and Ed Farsy. Let's go to Miles.
Yeah, so I had to think back on the first time like I really heard Ozzy, because I remember the first time I heard him, but I was trying to get the year down. So obviously I'm the younger one of the group. I was born in 93. I vividly remember this was right when I started grade school, and I had to look up the year. It was around the time that Weathered album came out by Creed, because like that was all everybody was listening to. And it might have been before that or before the record came out or something like that. Well, anyway,
That's like 01.
it was either 2000 or '01. But anyway, I remember going sleep at like I was just starting grade school, so I must have been like first grade maybe. And I remember I was just like finding friends and stuff like that. And I went spend the night over at a friend's house, and his dad had a mix CD, and he had the Creed song that was popular at the time on there, but he also had this song called Crazy Train on there. And I was like blown away by like the guitar playing and everything on it. And then my buddy, he saw that I really liked it, and he was like, you know who this is? And I was like, no. And he was like, this is Ozzy Osbourne. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So really at that time, my dad was the one that introduced me to a lot of music. So when I got home, I asked my dad, I said, Dad, you ever heard of this Ozzy Osbourne person? And he was like, oh, you just don't know. Like, he's like the fucking Prince of Darkness. He was giving me the whole spill about it and stuff like that. Well, not long after, I remember riding in his truck and Over the Mountain came on, and looked at me and he said, listen to this song by Ozzy. And I was like, all right. So I listened to it, the drums kick in and all that. And then Randy, and I was like, holy shit, this is like, and then the solo kicks in and everything. At that point is when I was like, I just got to hear like what, because obviously at that time I was behind the eight ball. Ozzy's first record came out early 80s. So, I started listening to everything. So, what's the best thing to do? I said, Dad, my dad would always buy me CDs from Walmart. And I was like, all right. And I was like, Dad, I found this CD. It was called The Ozman Cometh. And I was like, Dad, can you buy me this CD? And he was like, yeah. Well, I didn't know that there were Black Sabbath songs on there. So I'm listening to this CD and I'm hearing these songs and I'm like, hold on. This sounds a little bit different, but a little bit older. So, I, I, I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, this is like old Ozzy. He was like, no, this is a band called Black Sabbath. This was the band that Ozzy was in before he, did like Crazy Train and stuff. So I was like, oh, the song that really pulled me, the first song I heard was Iron Man by Black Sabbath, but the song that really pulled me into Black Sabbath with Ozzy was Children of the Grave, which was on that CD. And it was just dark and creepy. And I was just like, whoa, and ever since then, it's been like, discovering Ozzy, getting into Ozzy. And then also around that time is when the Osbournes TV show was coming out. So at like that time, Ozzy was like all over the place. He was on TV, he was on movies. I specifically remember this movie came out. Y'all probably seen it. It's called Little Nicky. It's an Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah.
And I remember we didn't know nothing about it. And we was watching it, and then at the end when Ozzy comes out and he bites the head off the bat that Adrian, he's like getting the flask, I was like, holy shit, that's fucking Ozzy Osbourne. And I was just like, he was everywhere at the time.
Yeah.
And then actually around that time, it's not on there. I didn't pull it off the shelf, but that's when that album Down to Earth came out. And that was the one with that album cover just freaked me out. I remember seeing it in stores and stuff like that. Yeah, that album cover just freaked me the fuck out. It's weird looking and stuff. But yeah, so at this time, like he was in all Austin Powers movies and all kind of stuff. He was more of like a celebrity at this time, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
But I was really more into the music. But I've seen a few episodes of the Osbournes and stuff. I never really got more into the Osbournes like most people were. I was more into like the records and the CDs and stuff. But yeah, that's really like how I came to know Ozzy. And then I'm sure we're gonna talk about it. It's been like Ozzy's been in my life from very early on going forward. It seems like everything. I never got a chance to see him live, and it sucks because I had to look it up. The last time he came here was at Voodoo Fest 2015, I think it was. And at that point in time in 2015, that's when I just started like working, and I still work a shit ton, but like I was never willing to like miss work for anything. Like I'm not going to a concert and miss work. Now I'm more open to, I miss time and stuff to do what I want to do. But, and then at that time, I wasn't really big into listening to Ozzy, like his newer material and stuff like that. And I didn't want to deal with the people at Voodoo Fest. So I was like, you know what? I could skip this. He's gonna come around again, and he never did. And here we are today, where now I'm never gonna get the opportunity to see him.
Yeah. Fuck. So
it's cool to hear. It's cool to hear your side of things too, though, because you're coming from a younger perspective. We all kind of came. Most of us came into this stuff when it was new, and you discovered it much later. But it's very interesting to hear that, Miles.
Right, absolutely. And then when I started collecting, this is why I love like the Speak of the Devil cover and stuff like that. That you showed the Talk of the Devil. When I started collecting records, my uncle gave me his record collection, right? He was like, hey, look, if you want to start collecting records and stuff, you can start out with mine. I'm not ever going to play them again. And I got Blizzard. I got Diary of a Madman. He had that. But when I pulled out this one and saw that album cover, I was just like, holy shit. Whoa, that's like the coolest cover ever.
The centerfold.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the jelly in his mouth and stuff like that.
That was chewed up bats. That was not jelly.
Yeah, that was not jelly.
It was chewed up bat.
Bat guts.
But I remember looking at the track listing on the back, and I'm like, and even then at this point, I'm like, hold on. These are none of his solo stuff. This is all Black Sabbath songs. So when I heard it, I was just like, I just got to hear it, And I was like, I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, this is great. But yeah, I'll never forget when I first pulled out this record out of his record collection. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Absolutely. Welcome, Christian. Thanks for fucking dropping in. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm not at home. I'm actually in Omaha, Nebraska, visiting family. Just got back from dinner, so that's why I'm a couple minutes late coming on here.
That's all good, man.
All right.
We are going around the room and talking about everybody's first experiences with Ozzy Osbourne. How'd you get into him? What's the first song you heard? First album you got? First time you saw him live? If you did get to see him live. So that's what we're doing just to catch you up.
Okay, cool.
We are going to head now over to apparently what's not icy cold Norway. Apparently what's fucking hot Norway right now. Yeah. And talk to Ovi.
Yeah.
What do you got for us, Ovi?
I've told these stories a couple of times, but it started with Pantera for me, with Planet Caravan, and like this doesn't sound like the other Pantera stuff I know. So I went to a record store and asked about it, and no, that's Black Sabbath song. All right, and they gave me Paranoid. So that was the first album I got. So that was my first, conscious notion of Ozzy. I probably heard him on Party with Animals on the Buffy Vampire Slayer soundtrack or something. And I got Motorhead with March or Die, and I'm not a nice guy.
Ain't no nice guy.
Yeah, I heard that song, and I heard a backing vocal, and it's like I know that voice. It's an unmistakable voice.
Yeah.
So that's two. As for the first solo album, I would have get from him would probably be Osmosis.
All right.
Because it was the album that was new, and I think it personally has a really cool artwork with the eyes and kind of
Yeah,
like dark and menacing, and it's kind of cool. So
absolutely.
that would probably be my first album of him, Osmosis.
That's our era of Ozzy too. When we were fucking young dudes, that album was fucking massive for us.
Yeah.
You ever get to see him live?
Yeah, I did. I did see him live in 2007.
Oh, cool.
My cousin works at the airport, so he arrived at the airport the day before he was doing the show in a wheelchair, and he said that one of his staff or doctors injected him with something, and suddenly he was standing straight up, and no more wheelchair needed.
That, yeah.
That was kind of unique because my cousin has probably worked at the airport for he still works there now, so he has worked there probably for almost 30 years. He had never seen anything like that happen before or after, I think.
It could have been
But
some kind of
it
cortisone
just
shot or
started.
something because he had these accidents and stuff. I don't know if that is in the timeline there, but it sounds like it could have been something like might have needed a cortisone shot or something
That's
similar
definitely
just to
after
get
the
up.
ATV accidents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They just lowered him down from the plane, and then he was in the wheelchair, and they injected him, and he stood up like there was nothing wrong with him, and then he walked off with the rest of the guys in
That was
his.
bat blood. That was bat blood. They injected him with some bat blood.
There you
That's what it
go.
was. Yeah.
And
So Count Ralphus.
he
Oh,
played at our what do you call it, football field, and it was TNT warming up, then Black Label Society, then Zach Wild played us as a show after. So I got to see a lot of Zach that night.
nice. That's always a good time getting to see extra Zach Wild.
Hmm.
So Count Ralphus, what do
Yeah,
you got,
so
buddy?
like Ed was saying in the 70s, you listen to radio and stuff, but I don't remember hearing Black Sabbath. Like I remember hearing like Zeppelin and Hendrix and stuff like that, but not so much Sabbath. But I had a friend whose parents were hippies and they had Paranoid and the first Black Sabbath album. And my friend played me like he probably played all of Paranoid, but I just remember hearing Iron Man. And that was like the song that stuck with me. And it was the first time that I kind of knew a little bit of what they were, but that's the only thing I remembered was like the beginning of the song. I am Iron Man. We thought it was cool. I was like really young, and I was a Kiss fan as a young kid, but so me and Ed and John and Tony are all very similar in age. So like around 81 and 82, I'm joining like Columbia House, I think it was 82. And my first like 12 things I'm getting is like Sabbath kind of related. I think We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll, the compilation. That was my first Sabbath. But within 6 months' time, I'm also getting the first two Ozzy solo albums. I'm getting Speak of the Devil, and then Heaven and Hell is out. And then it's like Live Evil, and all this stuff is all in like a year's time. I'm getting all of that. And then before you know it, Black Sabbath's putting out an album with Ian Gillan singing. So it was just like I had to like start
Yeah.
getting magazines to try to figure out what the hell was going on and who's in who. What because I have Machine Head by Deep Purple, so I kind of know who he is and everything. But yeah, back then without the internet and stuff, it was a lot harder. Like we had friends. A lot of my friends that were finding metal at the same time, some of them might have had older brothers that were teaching them, and then I would learn from hearing it like passed down, like the lore would be passed down. But yeah, so I got so much of it all in one shot, and it was all in the beginning of me collecting music. So I have always said Black Sabbath is my all-time favorite band, and I prefer those first six albums with Ozzy is like my favorite, even though I love the Dio stuff. But yeah, there's something about those six albums. I think it's the best run ever of albums. And I didn't get to see Ozzy my first time. I wanted to go really bad to the Bark of the Moon with Motley Crue. I had one friend that went, and we just couldn't get rides back then. You're like 12 years old, 13 years old. It was really hard to get rides, but I did get a ride to the next time he came around with Jakey Lee playing when I'm still on the Ultimate Sin. And by this time, I'm already a huge Metallica fan. And so my first time going to see Metallica and Ozzy in the same night. And I've told the story. I got the ticket stubs in a frame over here, signed by everybody in Metallica. I met Cliff Burton and everything that night. And one of the first. It's funny because it's the first time I ever met a band that I was a big fan of. But the first rock star guy I ever met was Brad Gillis, with the singer from Night Ranger, because Brad Gillis played on this album, "To Speak of the Devil," and we got a phone call saying that they were at the laundromat, and we were like, "Yeah, who cares about Night Ranger?" And then someone's like, "Oh, but Brad Gillis from Ozzy, Speak of the Devil," and then we all jumped on our bikes and we went down there, and they were super cool, and they like pointing at our shirts, all Judas Priest and this, and they were talking about all the bands, then they were friends with them and all that. So it was pretty weird. That was my first. And then we ended up going to the show that night. It was 38 Special and Night Ranger at the fair, and we snuck in for free. But yeah. So I see Ozzy on Ultimate Sin, and like kind of like what Ed was saying, now I'm getting really into the heavy stuff. So I kind of ignore Ozzy, but I'm still picking up his albums and stuff as they come out. But I'm just not going out of my way. He actually played the fairgrounds like 5 minutes from my house. I could actually ride my bike down to, and I didn't go because now I'm a Slayer fanatic, and this, like he was saying, is kind of like old news, kind of. It's weird to think about it now. I missed a lot of shows like that because that's my frame of mind was like that, But yeah, so when Ozzy reunites and they do, the reunion tour, that with Pantera and the Deftones, that was like really big deal. But the first time was when they did Giant Stadium, the first Ozfest with Pantera and Marilyn Manson, all them. That was the first time I ever get to see Ozzy again since Ultimate Sin. And now he's got Tony Iommi with him, which I never thought in a million years. And even though Bill Ward wasn't with him, now it was a huge deal to see that. But they only played like 6 songs. It was such a limit because Ozzy played a set and then they played a set. So the next time when they come around, they do the reunion tour where they did the Last Supper DVD and all that stuff. That was my favorite show of all time that I've ever went to. I never thought I was going to see the original 4 members of Sabbath, and they played a full long set. And we took a limousine down because it was like it was the most important show to me. We made a big deal about it. And if I had to like pick a show, that was probably my favorite show of all time that I went to, because I seen Ozzy with Sabbath. I went to every Ozfest that Sabbath played with headlined. I went to a few where it was just Ozzy headlining, but anytime Sabbath came in the area, I went to it. And there in that whole time that they reunited and did all the Ozfest and stuff. And then at the end they did the 13 album comes out, and I go to see that in Brooklyn. And then they did the end tour, and when you went to that show, you could buy at the time you could only get the CD at the show. I don't know if this is like available now. I imagine you could just buy this now, or part of like something.
No, I have a bootleg of it.
I got a bootleg on vinyl of it too.
I got a bootleg of it. You can't get that shit anywhere. No.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah.
This is a digipack, and it's signed by all 3 of them, not the drummer. But
that's awesome.
And they were selling these at the merch stand for $100. So I didn't get any shirts that night.
Ooh.
And it was like it had awesome tour posters that were numbered and stuff. It was like I could buy this one thing and that was it. I couldn't afford anything else. But I'm really glad I got it. And then I found this on vinyl as a bootleg. But yeah, as a kid, like I guess we'll go back around and talk about like favorite albums and this and that. But that's just my whole beginning is like just being confused and getting all this shit all at once and then trying to figure it out. And it was always a great time figuring it all out and listening to it over and over again and shit.
Of course.
That's it.
Awesome. John McInty,
Hello.
frontman of Incantation. Thank you for hanging out with us. What is your first experience getting into Ozzy? First time hearing him, first time seeing him, if you did?
Well, the first time hearing him that I remember, I think I might have heard him before, but I didn't really know who he was or anything. The first time I knew who he was and what the song was on the radio. I remember, I don't know, I can't remember what year it was, but I know I was not that old because I was going to the supermarket with my mom, and I remember on the radio, playing. I don't remember if they announced it beforehand or afterwards or whatever, but they announced like, an Ozzy song, and they played Crazy Train, and I I thought it was an interesting song. I was getting into metal. I was more into AC/DC and Kiss and Queen and Foreigner and stuff like that. But I heard it. It sounded pretty cool. I thought the vocals were pretty strange, actually. Um, the kind of like the weird, it was almost like the weird harmonized type vocals. I didn't really know what it was back then. I just know it sounded really different than like all the other songs that were played on the rock radio station. So yeah, that was my first time hearing it. I liked it, but I didn't like go out and buy it or anything like that. I just was like, oh, that was a cool song or whatever. And then um, probably probably a good year or so later. Like I said, I can't remember the exact timeline because I was a kid, but I remember being a Dio fan, and I remember picking up Live Evil, and it was like this weird thing. Like I figured, like I like I think I heard some Black Sabbath beforehand. I can't remember exactly, but I remember for some reason I was just like, man, that singer sounds freaking weird in Black Sabbath, like or something, like having that interpretation of it. So I was listening to, I bought Live Evil because I like Dio's vocals, and I was like, well, maybe if I buy this and listen to these Sabbath songs with Dio singing, maybe I'll be able to go back and listen to Sabbath and maybe get, understand it more. And that's exactly what happened. It's like I remember after having that album, I borrowed indefinitely from my friend's older brother the original first album and original Paranoid album, and I remember listening to the song Black Sabbath, and I heard it already from the Live Evil album, so I mean I kind of knew what to expect, but I was just like, man, those vocals are so weird. They're like so different than anything I heard at that time, and almost like my perception as a kid is like he had like some kind of apple in his mouth and he was trying to sing or something like that. Maybe it was just the accent or something. But as a kid, I just thought it was really strange. But I really loved the music, and and it was like one of those things with Ozzy's vocals. Like once it clicked, it all made sense. But I needed a little time to simmer on it to really get into it. And then it was like once I got it, I was just ridiculously obsessed, and I just you know eventually purchased all the albums and listened to all the Black Sabbath Ozzy albums. I used to listen to that stuff. um it was pretty much a religious experience for me as a young kid. I mean, just the overall vibe of the music and the vocals and everything, it just totally blew me away. I mean, I mentioned on the other podcast I was just on that yeah, like my guitar teacher, I used to watch the Never Say Die video all the time. Like I used to watch that religiously too, like all the time. I was just obsessed with it. And my guitar teacher was just really surprised that I like Black Sabbath that much. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, he grew up listening. I mean, like being a big fan of Led Zeppelin and stuff. And he's just like you like Black Sabbath, like I like Led Zeppelin. And I was like, yeah, of course, because Black Sabbath's way heavier than Led Zeppelin. That's all I cared about, was that it was heavy and way darker and whatever. So yeah, it made a huge impact on me. It was just, for me, it was a slow simmer, we'll say. Like it wasn't like one day I heard Ozzy. It was just like, oh wow, this is the most amazing thing. No, it was like it grew on me. But the things that's important is that these things that grow on you sometimes are stronger than just, I wasn't just jumping on the bandwagon like, oh, Ozzy, blah blah. He's a crazy guy. It'd be fun to get into as a kid. No, I really like dug deep into the you know the whole Black Sabbath stuff, and of course I ended up picking up the Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz and stuff like that. And I was wanted to go see him originally for the Bark at the Moon tour, but like Count Ralphus said, it was tough to get a ride back then. I mean, I was pretty young, and I didn't know anybody with a car to be able to take me there, and I was kind of bummer because I really wanted to see that show, but I ended up seeing with Metallica over at the Brendan Byrne Arena. The Ultimate Sin and Metallica was it on Master of Puppets, and it was a crazy show. I remember even someone took my denim jacket off during the show, and people were throwing all stuff like all over like on stage or whatever. And I guess my jacket ended up being one of the things that people decided to throw at the stage or whatever. So I kind of lost my denim jacket, which I was kind of bummed out about. But it was good. I mean, Ozzy had kind of the Phyllis Diller look back then, which wasn't my favorite, but
Totally.
it was great. And I was a big Jakey Lee fan at that time because I was a aspiring guitar player at the time. So of course, I liked Randy Rhoads too. Had the Randy Rhoads poster on my wall, but Jakey Lee I also thought was a madman. I used to have that Ozzy Jakey Lee shirt back in the day. I don't know what happened to that thing.
That
But
was a cool shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. And Jakey Lee, in my opinion, is extremely underrated as far as Ozzy guitar player. I mean, he's getting more notoriety now, but I thought he was great. I mean, I understand some of the songs weren't to me as good as Diary of the Madman and Blizzard of Oz, but I still think his guitar work is top notch. And a song like Bark of the Moon is a classic. I mean, that's one of the best heavy metal songs of all time, really.
No doubt.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
Christian,
just to jump in here for vocals, because I heard Planet Caravan with Pantera first, and I got the Paranoid CD, and I listened to Planet Caravan there too, and that doesn't exactly sound like Ozzy, because it's kind of like sing to a kind of organ kind of vocal.
Yeah, he's singing through a Leslie on that, so that's what makes it sound like all wavy and trippy. A Leslie is a amplifier that runs in a circle, so when you sing through it, it makes it sound kind of like you're singing through this weird wavy kind of fucking astral thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so of course,
well, one thing.
Sorry. So of
No,
course,
go ahead. I'll say it afterwards.
Yeah. So of course, when I put on the whole album and I heard their other songs, I was wondering if there was something wrong with the CD because he didn't sound like Planet Caravan.
Yeah.
I had to go back to the record store and ask, is there something wrong with the CD because it doesn't sound like the song I heard? No, that's yeah. Go on, John.
Well, what I was going to say was and I mentioned this also in the other podcast too, was that Ozzy's voice is so original, especially I thought on the Black Sabbath stuff. I mean, it was original in Ozzy stuff too. He has his own. He lives in his own world with tone wise goes, but it was weird, for first hearing it. It was so distinctively different than what I've heard with other bands singing. So it took a little while to get into, but it's like kind of like once you get in and you feel the passion of the vocals and the way he expresses it is actually really strong. It's actually stronger, in my opinion, than is necessarily his vocal talent. But I mean, I was just a little kid at the time, so I just knew this guy sounded kind of funny or whatever. But I ended up, like I said, once I got it, it was just like, it's truly original and amazing, and that makes for a great vocalist. I think is when they could have their own personality come through on his vocal performance, not just be tonally, accurate.
Right. No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever Ozzy sang, you knew it was him. It was
I personally think that Ozzy can sing like a regular tone too. He just has his signature vocals, but I think if he wanted to, he could sing like the rest of us. If he wanted to, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Christian, my brother from Connecticut.
What's up?
Thanks for stopping in.
Glad to be here.
So what's your first experience here in Ozzy? first song you heard, first album you got, and first time you saw him live, if you did.
All right, so first time hearing Ozzy that I could distinctly remember, or at least somewhat remember, is probably the song Iron Man on the radio at some point as a young kid, even long before I started getting into metal or anything like that. Like I always knew that song. Probably, who knows the first time I could have been 3 years old the first time I heard it. I could have been 8 years old. I don't remember. I know it was just a young kid. Um, as far as actually like starting to like buy his music or get into him, the first thing I remember purchasing, there was the Nativity in Black Sabbath tribute that came out, I think, 94.
Yeah.
I remember that coming out and listening to the songs on that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know Paranoid, I know Iron Man, but then there's some other cool songs in there, like The Wizard, Children of the Grave, After Forever, all these other songs. So I heard that, and then I think the other song I remember seeing the video for on MTV. Maybe it was on Beavis and Butthead or what had been, I don't remember. Was "Mama, I'm Coming Home,"
Yeah.
and I didn't really like that song that much. I mean, Ozzy and Sabbath, they weren't like the first metal bands that I was like getting into, but when you start listening to metal and getting into the genre, everyone always talks about Ozzy, everyone always talks about Sabbath. So, getting into this in the early to mid 90s, like Ozzy was a legend, Sabbath, they were legends by that point already. But the first CD I listened to, which wasn't them directly, but it was, Black Sabbath. So at that point, listening to that, I'm like, all right, I got to start getting some more Black Sabbath. So I think the next CD I bought after that one was a Black Sabbath Greatest Hits. Not We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. I know a friend of mine had that one, but it was just Black Sabbath, which had most of the songs in there. It had NIB, Children of the Grave. Is it that one?
one?
Yeah, it's that one. That exact one. Awesome. Cool.
Triumph of Death painting. It's just
Yeah.
incredible.
Cool.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. But I remember that. And then I also bought a cassette called Children of the Grave, which is essentially the entire Volume 4 album, but then a live version of Children of the Grave from the Live at Last LP, which I guess wasn't an official Sabbath LP, but whatever. So once I got into that, like then I like really started to get into Ozzy. But then I also remember hearing, I think I heard Crazy Train on probably like classic rock radio. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a cool song. So then I was starting to get like into the solo Ozzy. So I was getting into solo Ozzy and Sabbath Ozzy pretty much like at the same time. As far as I think the first solo Ozzy CD that I got, I'm fairly certain was Blizzard of Oz. I think the first Sabbath after the greatest hits was Paranoid. It was definitely Paranoid. So, from there it was just like, okay, I got to get all the Ozzy, all the Sabbath with Ozzy. I got to get all the solo Ozzy and all that. So, that's pretty much it. Just took off from there. First time seeing Ozzy live was in January of 1996. It was the Osmosis tour. I remember Life of Agony was one of the opening acts, and I remember Korn was the opening act. I remember that was right when Korn was just like starting to explode and get like really popular.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was at the New Haven Coliseum in New Haven, Connecticut.
Nice.
And I remember we were on the floor. It was maybe like row 30 or something like that. So I mean, it wasn't like up close, but it wasn't like too far away. But I think that's the only show. It was probably the first non-club show that I went, because the other concerts I went to before that, I think were all at Toad's Place in New Haven. So it was just small club shows. This was my first time going to like an arena show. But yeah, I remember like everyone, like when Ozzy hit the stage, everyone was basically standing on their chair. It wasn't they were just standing up. They were standing on their chairs. So we had to get up and stand on our chairs if we wanted to see them. And I remember Geezer was with them on that tour. So I remember the set list. It was like a lot of Black Sabbath stuff and a lot of like, older Ozzy stuff. So it was awesome. It was a hell of a show.
Was that Joe Holmes on guitar on that tour?
I think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was Zach.
Yeah.
I think it was Joe
I think
Holmes.
I think it was Joe, and they had Dean Castronova, who's now in Journey, as the drummer.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't remember who the drum. I couldn't remember who the guitarist. But I think you're right. It was Joe Holmes. I couldn't remember but I definitely remember Geezer being there, and I thought that was like already by that time, Black Sabbath had become my favorite band. So I was just like so excited. I'm like, yeah, I get to see half of Black Sabbath, not knowing that, a couple of years later they would fully reunite. And I saw that Ozfest, I think that was 99. I saw that one. That was a pretty wild show. That was at the Meadows Music Theater in Hartford, where it's, we're outside of the lawn. People were like piling up trash and like lighting them on fire. And one of my friends, like, there were people like trying to jump over like the fires that people were lighting. My friend like tried to jump over. He fell. His back like fell like directly on the fire. He got burned really bad. It's like if we were smart, we would have like, all right, we got to go take you to like the hospital. Like, dude, fucking Black Sabbath is playing. When are we gonna have another chance to see this? It's like we didn't even no medical care. It's like, fuck it, just drink more beer. We're gonna listen to Sabbath, and then we'll do something about it. Which, it's probably is it the nicest? Is it the smartest thing to do? No, but whatever. We were 18 years old, and it's like, come on, man. It's the original Sabbath. We don't know when these guys are ever gonna be around again. So
Yeah, you're
there you
fucking
go.
kids. Tough it out. We're about to see Sabbath. Go
Yeah,
sit down.
rub
Have
some
more
dirt
beers.
on
I'll
it.
buy you another beer.
Yeah, he's like, oh,
Yeah,
it
rub
hurts.
some
It
dirt
hurts.
on
No,
it.
have another beer. But
Oh, that's
yeah,
fucking great.
yeah. So
That's great.
yeah, but it definitely like those two times, like that first show I saw in '96, which is I think it was the last tour he did before, because I think the first Ozfest was '96 or '97, right?
Mhm.
I believe so. Yeah, 96.
The
96.
first
It would have been,
tour,
I
the
think,
first touring one was 97. Yeah.
first tour. Okay, yep. All right. So yeah, and that was the only show I ever saw at the New Haven Coliseum, which was a place that a lot of the '70s and '80s, a lot of bands had played there. But I think by the '90s, at least in Connecticut, then you get the casinos and whatever, so all the bands start playing there, and eventually they tore down the Coliseum uh, over 20 years ago now.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, so yeah.
All right. So I guess we're back to me. And my first experience really hearing Ozzy, I believe I might have saw the video for Iron Man off of the Speak of the Devil live home video. Believe I saw that once or twice on Headbangers Ball when I was a little kid. I remember that being on there, and like the background was the cross and it was flipping around, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it goes upside down. And I remember watching that. I shouldn't have been watching it because it was after midnight and I wasn't supposed to be up. And I remember being nervous, like, oh man, if my fucking parents catch me watching this right now, I'm fucked. So I think that was the first time I ever seen or heard Ozzy, and I remember loving it. And I remember also being a kid right around that same time. um, my brother went away to prison for a long time, and we had bunk beds in our room. There's an 18-year difference between me and my brother. And underneath my bed, which was the bottom bed, he had a stack of records. And I remember being a kid and going through that stack of records from time to time and seeing things like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Jeff Beck and Grand Funk Railroad and the Rolling Stones. My brother was a huge Stones fan, the Doors, all that kind of shit. And then there was one record in particular in that stack that really stood out because the album cover really kind of scared the shit out of me. It looked like the cover of a horror movie, and it just intrigued me every time I pulled that stack of records out. I would just sit and look at this cover and wonder what it sounded like. One day I got left home alone. My parents went out for a couple hours, And I got the balls on me to pull the record out and said, you know what? I'm not supposed to touch the record player in the living room, but nobody's home. So I'm going to go touch the record player in the living room. Seen my sister work it a bunch of times, seen my dad work it a bunch of times. I knew how it worked, I knew what to do. So I grabbed the record and I run out to the living room and I open up the turntable, and I had no consciousness of what side one, what side two. I just grabbed this, pulled the vinyl out, put it down on the platter, dropped the needle on it, and I had this thing in my head where I'm like, this has got to sound like a horror movie. It has to. Just by the cover alone, it has to sound creepy and evil like a horror movie. So I put it down on side two, and the first thing I heard was the keyboards to Mr. Crowley. And your boy, I must have been 8 or 9 years old, heard the opening keys to Mr. Crowley, and I was just like, what the fuck? This is exactly what I thought it was going to be. It blew my mind. I sat there looking at the album cover and listening to that song, and I went, I got to tape this. So I stopped the record, went into my room, grabbed the blank cassette, and threw it in the dual cassette thing that was under the turntable and recorded the entire album, with side two playing first. So when I got my first official copy of it later on, I was like, wait a minute, why doesn't it start with Mr. Crowley? Yeah, because I'm an idiot and I started the record on side two. So that was my first real big experience with Ozzy. I played that fucking cassette over and over and over again. I remember like talking to my sister about it, that Ozzy album. She's like, yeah, I know it. I've been listening to it for years. You're late to the game. Congratulations. So that was my first experience with Ozzy solo. And at that point, Zach was in the band at that point. So then all the videos on MTV, you know, a couple years later, it was No More Tears came out, and that was huge. And that was fucking, that's another big one for me, is that No More Tears record. But my first experience with Sabbath came a few years after that. I had gotten my first guitar and started learning some stuff, some Cream songs and Deep Purple and shit like that. And went to a deli down the street from my house. And it's funny because there's a couple of us on this episode who have experience with this NEMS version of Black Sabbath's greatest hits with the Triumph of Death cover.
Yep.
So there was a deli down the street from my house where you went to the counter. There was a Lazy Susan of cassettes. And, you know, one day I go in there and I'm just flipping through it. I'm like, all right, Steve Miller Band, cool. Jimi Hendrix, cool, fine. Oh, yeah, Black Sabbath. Fucking Ozzy sang for Black Sabbath. So I pulled this out. It was $4. And it was like, do I buy baseball cards or do I buy this Black Sabbath Greatest Hits cassette? And I very proudly can say I bought the Black Sabbath Greatest Hits cassette. And I went home. What's that?
Good choice.
Very good choice. I went home and played this over and over and over and over and over. Rewind, play, rewind, play, rewind, play, rewind, play. Trying to learning the riffs from by ear. Stopping and go, wait a minute, what's going on there? And just sitting and trying to find the notes and driving myself nuts, driving probably my parents nuts, especially my dad, who thought that Ozzy Osbourne was of questionable sexual orientation because all he cared about was country music. So yeah, that was my first experience with Sabbath, was this greatest hits. And again, this is where I cut my teeth on music too. This is where I started. I probably learned everything that I learned completely wrong, but it didn't matter because when I played along to it, it sounded fine. So yeah, there's my first experience with Sabbath, and it's really cool to hear Tony Dio and Christian talking about that particular greatest hits album.
Yeah.
I only got to see Ozzy live once. I saw him in 2008 at Mohegan Sun Arena in Connecticut. And that was on the Black Rain tour. And I'm fucking happy that I got to see that because I got to see Ozzy with Zakk Wylde. This is probably going to rub some of you guys the wrong way, but Zakk Wylde is my personal favorite Ozzy guitarist. That's no secret. We've done a Black Label episode here where I've lathered lots of praise on him. That's my fucking guy. So yeah, that was an amazing show. Ozzy was a little off that night vocally, out of key in certain parts. He was forgetting lyrics to Bark at the Moon, but it didn't matter, man. I was under the same roof as Ozzy Osbourne. That's all I gave a shit about, was that I was in the same fucking room with the guy who I'd listened to for years, that I cut my teeth on his music, that helped me so much through so many bad times when I was a kid. Black Sabbath, starting with that greatest hits cassette, became such a therapeutic thing for me. It was a thing where it was just put on Sabbath and forget everything else that sucks right now. Doesn't matter. It's all about Black Sabbath. It's all about Ozzy's voice, Tony's guitar, Geezer's bass, Bill's drums. Yeah, there was a lot of hard times that I went through as a young dude, going through a lot of abuse in my house, and Black Sabbath were the fucking like antidote to a lot of that. Just turning on those songs and just kind of forgetting about everything for a while. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but I can't help but bring that up because it's so important to me. Um, anyway, yes, Ozzy was, even though he vocally kind of stunk that night, it was a fantastic night. We had a blast. Zakk made up for it because his guitar solo was disgusting. He did a long electric guitar solo, then did an acoustic guitar solo, then went into Mama, I'm Coming Home, and we all cried and hugged and went up to the hotel room and got fucking plastered, and it was fantastic. So yeah, there's my first experiences with Ozzy and seeing Ozzy live. I guess let's go into now. Let's talk about our favorite Sabbath albums and our favorite Ozzy albums. Like, give us your top two Sabbath with Ozzy, and give us your top two Ozzy solo. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's
Good
good.
for me.
Sounds good. All right, let's go back to Mr. Tony Dio. Let's hear your two Sabbath with Ozzy and your two Ozzy solo.
Two Sabbaths are going to be Volume 4 and Sabotage. And love both
Yeah.
of those. Sabotage is number one, and Volume 4 is close behind it. Ozzy solo, not counting live albums because I love Speak of the Devil.
Yeah.
But I gotta go. I'll go Diary of a Madman and Bark at the Moon.
Okay.
I love the first one. Love the debut. I like everything that Ozzy did up through the Osmosis record. Osmosis is probably that's the cutoff for me. There's good stuff on some of the ones after it. I like here and there. But really right up through there is where I kind of stop with them. But
Okay.
yeah, so I'm gonna go with Diary and Bark at the Moon for my two favorite for the Ozzy solo.
Excellent. Ed Farsty.
As far as Sabbath goes, I'd have to say Sabotage, probably number two, and Black Sabbath, the debut, has always been my favorite Black Sabbath album. It's not even like the best Black Sabbath album, but for me, it's my favorite. It's just the song Black Sabbath is my favorite Black Sabbath song, and that's always been my favorite album. As far as the solo stuff, I like albums past Mark and the Moon, but not as much. Like the first three are just absolute classics. After that, it's like this is a great song, it's a good song, it's an all right song, but I don't really love any album past that. First two albums are absolute 100% classics. I flip flop between my favorite, depending on my mood, but I'd probably say Blizzard because Revelation Mother Earth is my all time favorite Ozzy song. So I'd go with Blizzard of Oz for my favorite album for today. Tomorrow will probably be Diary.
Nice. Miles.
So with Sabbath, my two favorite, definitely going Masters of Reality. I just think like the guitar tones on here are fucking brutal. You know, Children of the Grave, Into the Void, you know, Sweet Leaf, just brutal shit on there. It's like the birth of doom metal right there. And then my favorite Ozzy Sabbath record is definitely Volume 4. You know, you got Snowblind on here, Cornucopia, you know, but my favorite Black Sabbath song with Ozzy on vocals is Under the Sun. That guitar riff on there just is always connected with me, and the lyrics, literally the lyrics on that song, just as what I've been living by for a long time, you know, just wanting to be yourself and not having anybody tell you what to do and what to think, and thinking for yourself. That's just like that's just always been my mentality for a long time. So it really speaks to me, and not just having a killer fucking guitar riff on there as well. My two favorite solo records, he's got so many that I really like, but my two favorite are definitely Blizzard, definitely, you know, because Crazy Train's the first song I ever heard by Ozzy, but you know, you got Mr. Crowley. That fucking song is just it's like you, James, it scared me as a kid, because and then hearing knowing what the song's about, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, this really is freaky. But you know, and Suicide Solution on that record, just great stuff, man. But my all-time favorite Ozzy record, and I know I said it before, is Diary of a Madman. Over the Mountains on this record. You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, just such an anthem. But my favorite Ozzy solo song of all time is Diary of a Madman. That's my favorite Ozzy track of him solo. Love it. Oh, just love everything about that song, and I absolutely love that record.
Excellent. Ovi,
Yeah,
what do you got, brother?
yeah. I'm not gonna surprise anyone here. I would say my number two Sabbath album would probably be. I'm going back and thinking now while you guys have been talking about which album I listen most to, and I know Paranoid Matter Reality and it's like the most famous albums, but I have to say that Sabbath Bloody Sabbath album is such a good album because I feel it's the first album where Ozzy kind of steps out of the box. He kind of takes it a little further, looking past changes now and to more like better stepping to the side. Like I said, be natural acrobat. I mean, he sings so well on that album. But my favorite is Sabotage. Sabotage is going to be my favorite Sabbath album forever. As
Excellent.
for solo Ozzy, well, I heard Osmosis first. But I just gotta think here too on what albums I've been pulling out the most and listening most to. And for my number two, I'm gonna be quite original in this crew. I'm gonna say Scream
Ooh,
with Gus G. And because Gus G is such a great guitar player. I mean, Gus G is Awesome. Do you have the one with the extra tracks?
I do not, but my copy is autographed by Gus G. I met him.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, me and Keeler met him at Alto Music in Middletown, New York. He was on tour with Ozzy at this point for this album and was doing a clinic for Black Star amps.
I think we're getting some sound from McInty's. I don't know if you gotta mute yourself. We keep hearing some kind of like sound.
Yeah, there's a
going
little
on.
bleed with the audio.
Yeah, it's probably picking up the mic.
I don't hear it now.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
As for my favorite Ozzy album that I reach for the most is No Rest for the Fucking Wicked. It's time to break the fucking rules. I mean, the guitar riff on Breaking All the Rules. That's some sweet action. That's some sweet action.
I actually really love that song.
Yeah,
I think it's a shame that Gus G isn't more well known of a guitar player. I thought the Ozzy gig would have definitely made him a household name, but it just didn't.
Yeah, it's true.
But he didn't really get to write on that album. There was a lot of outside writers on there.
Yeah,
because I was thinking, man, it's gonna sound like Ozzy meets Firewind, and it didn't.
No, it sounds like a Zakk Wylde written album. And Zakk doesn't have any credits on it, but goddamn, there's so many tunes on that record that sound like Zakk Wylde wrote it. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a thing where Zakk was like, Oz, just keep the songs, whatever. Let that kid play the leads on it. It's fine. I don't give a shit.
I mean, Gus G, he delivers Zakk Wylde like nobody else.
Yeah, it's true.
And No Rest for the Wicked, I think the reason why because it was back in the day when there were certain values that trumped what the logical reasons would be. And I mean, the artwork for No Rest for the Wicked, you're hearing Bloodbath, and you're hearing Breaking All the Rules, and it's like Tinker Trail.
Fire in the Sky.
Yeah, Fire in the Sky is fantastic.
I gotta have this.
Absolutely.
Instead
you
of
know,
having,
when that record first came out, there was a lot of talk about Zakk, and they were saying he played a lot like Randy Rhoads style more than, that, of course, Jake had his own sound. So it was definitely kind of a coming back to the early style of Ozzy for sure.
A little bit, because Zakk also, lives in the pentatonic scale.
Oh yeah.
But Zakk had his own thing too, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's the kind of the birth of the rebirth of Ozzy getting popularity was with Zakk.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he got rid of that hairdo that Ralphus talked about, and he kind of put on the scary makeup again, and it's kind of like, I need to get out of this dollhouse and play in the field.
Yeah, he started walking away from the glam image at that point. So Count Ralphus.
Zakk was really pretty when he first joined Ozzy.
He sure was. He sure was.
He looked like Sebastian Bach's brother or something,
Well, him and Sebastian were boys.
Evil twin.
Him and Sebastian Bach were boys. Zakk Wylde played guitar. Actually, no, I think it was Sebastian Bach sang at Zakk Wylde's wedding or something like that.
No,
I think they had the same barber, like the same hairstylist.
Yeah,
the thing you're referring to is they were at Neil Zozauer, the famous photographer. They were at his wedding, and there was a jam session with just various musicians. That's what you've seen the videos, I'm sure.
That's right. I remember reading it in Sebastian Bach's book and being like, wow, I didn't realize those guys were fucking go back like that. But yeah, they're both fucking, Jersey guys, right? Yeah, exactly. Count Ralphus.
Right. So just really quick on Scream. The last time I seen Ozzy do a full headlining show that wasn't an Ozfest is I seen him on the Scream tour, and Halford opened up for him, which before he back in
Oh shit.
and they were awesome, Halford, at that time. And then it was Ozzy's, like, I believe it was his 62nd birthday. That I don't know. I
Wow.
but I remember they bring a cake out for him and everything, and it was like in the middle of winter. It was like in December. I'm pretty sure that's his birthday. But all right, so my favorite Sabbath with Ozzy, I've said it plenty of times. I always say those first 6 albums are the greatest 6 album run by any band, with like just perfect albums to me. And it's Sabbath has always been the band that, like, for 2 years I say Volume 4 is my favorite. Then for 2 years I say Sabotage. Then for the last couple of years it's been Master of Reality for me. But
Mhm.
I would, if I had, I put it over Volume 4 just because I think it's got a better production. I just like the sound of it more. But I think Volume 4 will probably be my second favorite, but it's that and
Mhm.
Sabotage are just so close. But I think Ozzy's greatest vocal performance in his whole entire career is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I just think he sounds fucking incredible on that
Mhm.
album, and I don't think he's ever sounded better than that. He just has so much energy and stuff. Then we go to the two Aussies. I mean, I didn't have to barely even think about it, but a lot of people say Diary of the Madman is their favorite. I go with Blizzard of Oz. I got
Mhm.
one of the things I pulled out was this the Knuckle
Oh,
Bones.
sweet deal.
That's cool.
Right.
But when
Right.
I grabbed it, his little cross broke, but I got it and I didn't glue it back yet because I'm thinking I'm gonna do it upside down the next time. Like, I'll put it. Actually, it looks the same.
Why
Hopefully.
not?
But yeah, always thought this was like a way more sinister looking cover. Like you were talking about the cover with James when you found it, and you're
Yeah.
looking at that cover. Like to me on Diary, he kind of looks goofy. He looks like a little bit like of a clownish kind of. It's got like
Agreed.
that's not as scary to me. All of a sudden, it's like. And then Mr. Crowley for me is the greatest Ozzy solo song, and I think it's maybe one of my favorite guitar solos out of any song of all time. Like I never think about stuff like that, but if it ever gets asked, it's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind is that's Randy Rhoads' guitar solo, and Mr. Crowley's just always been one of the greatest solos. So it just flows so perfectly with it. And real quick, this is the first Ozzy shirt I ever owned. It's something you get at like the fairgrounds back then. And
Sweet.
on the sleeves it says Ozzy rules, which is cool. I used to write that down everywhere. And on the
That's
back,
awesome.
it's on the back it says the madman bites the bat, and it's got a bat with its head ripped off and it's like rolling around.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, man. I love the bootleg shirts from back in the 80s. They were
Yeah, this is
awesome.
like the fairground. Yeah, you could pop a balloon
Yeah.
or something. You would get this. I got
Yeah.
these are old
Parts of the
fairground.
book.
These are old fairground things too. You would get back then. This is from 1982. This Aussie mirror,
Oh,
and I.
nice.
Coke mirror.
This is always they call them carnival mirrors or Coke mirrors.
I got
But
Yeah.
killers like that. With like
yeah, Keeler's got a whole bunch of. He's got a lot of
without
great ones
something.
in the store. Keeler's got a whole collection of them. I got this great Black Sabbath one, which is awesome
Oh,
too.
Oh,
that is
nice.
sick.
And I got a little, like one of the little ones of like it's like one of the tour shirts where it's like a demon flying and it's like just coming out. It says Black Sabbath on it. It's a fucking awesome one. Oh, this is like
Love,
one
love that.
like a little logo Ozzy mirror. I got like a Priest and Maiden one like this too.
That's
But,
awesome.
I
Nice.
didn't go crazy pulling out all the vinyl because I got so much with Ozzy. It's like that would be like a whole episode of just showing off all the crap,
Yeah,
all the
same
shirts.
here,
And
man.
I was wearing this Ozfest shirt because like when we were originally we were going to do a summer like albums that or bands that we think of in the summertime or something that connects it to summertime. And I was thinking one of the ones I was going to bring up was Ozzy just because every summer for the longest time there we had that Ozfest.
That's
So
right.
I kind of had the shirt already pulled out. Like I was like, oh yeah, this would be a good one to wear because it will explain how Ozzy's like one of the summer kind of bands. But yeah, so that's my favorites there.
That's awesome.
Killer. You
John
guys know
McInty.
Sabotage will be 50 years old this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh
28.
shit.
Yeah.
That's this weekend. Oh wow.
I
That's
just
awesome.
jump in here. John, what's your 2 cents on Gus G as a guitar player?
What's what? Wait, what?
What's your 2 cents on Gus G as a guitar player?
What do I think of Gus G? I mean, he's great, but I I'm not really a fan of most of his work. I mean, as far as like song wise goes, I'm not a fan of his music, but he's a great guitar player, absolutely. And I think he did a great job with Ozzy, even though I don't really listen to the albums album he's on. I think he just did the one album, but
Yeah.
he's great. I mean, he's an awesome guitar player. It just yeah, he, I mean, the stuff I heard, he kind of comes from, I don't know, it's kind of like a power metal, heavy metal kind of background kind of thing, and vibe I get from him. It's good. I
Yes.
mean, I would have said that I agree that the Ozzy album would have been more to my liking if Ozzy would have sang on Gus G's riffs. I think it probably would have been something more interesting, in my opinion. Because I mean, I'm an old school Ozzy fan, so kind of I kind of dropped off after what was it, Ultimate Sin or whatever. I mean, obviously I know some of those other songs. I mean, but I kind of just, while he was doing Mr. Tinker Train and stuff like that, I was more thinking more like, Bolt Thrower or something, So it was kind of like I was on a different, I took a turn somewhere,
Right.
So it didn't really work with me. But yeah, anyway, using this to get to my two favorite Ozzy albums. I think it's pretty simple. It's just the Blizzard of Oz and Diary of the Madman. As far as which one's better, I really don't know because they kind of go back and forth all the time. I mean, those are just genius albums. I mean, I love Bark at the Moon too, but it's a little bit keyboard heavy for me. And it's not that the other ones, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of the Madman had keyboards too, but it was almost like the keyboards on you would call it Bark the Moon were like, I don't know if it's happier, but more like keyboard and not keyboard atmosphere. I guess it was like it was more of a support instrument to the guitars or to the rhythms. And on the first couple, they were thrown in more for accents and stuff. So I prefer the more accenty keyboard playing. As far as Black Sabbath albums goes, that's super impossible to answer accurately because it just depends on my mood. But I mentioned on there was Lair the Alchemist that I was just on beforehand too. That um, I just came from Quebec. We played a show up there, and we had like a 15-hour drive home. And I decided to listen to every Black Sabbath album on the ride home, and I made it up to Dehumanized, so I did pretty good. I didn't make it all the way, but it was really interesting to listen to the Black Sabbath Ozzy albums again in chronological order, and I haven't listened to those albums in full for so long because in the 80s they were like basically my metal religion, and even in the early 90s it was. There was a certain point where it's just like I just can't listen to War Pigs and Paranoid again. I'm gonna fucking die. But and then when they came and toured, all they played was like Paranoid and War Pigs all day long. So I was like, please just play a different song for me. I was, even though I don't hate the songs, but I mean I wore it out myself. I mean, I would listen to Black Sabbath like almost every single day of my teens in the 80s and early 90s and stuff. I mean, it was just like, you know, it was such second nature to listen to Sabbath, especially to Ozzy Sabbath at that time, that it totally burned me out. But now getting back to this, listening to all those albums in chronological order, that's the first time I probably listened to the album Black Sabbath and the album Paranoid, because those are the ones I probably listened to the least after the initial time, just because I burned it out so bad. And I really like both of those albums a lot. But I needed like a good 20 years of not listening to them because I had so much War Pigs and Paranoid in my brain from the first 20 years or whatever, that it's like I needed a cleanser. And because at that time I was mostly listening to either Dio post Ozzy Sabbath, or I listened to Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die and like Sabotage, stuff like that. That was just more of a little bit less played out, and I love listening to that. So if you would have asked me like 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said like Technical Ecstasy is my favorite, mixed with the other one might be Sabbath Bloody Sabbath or something. But after listening to them all in a row, it reminded me what about Black Sabbath got me into it. And I'd have to say my two favorites at this as today, which is like changes almost daily. I would say the first Black Sabbath album, because I forgot how much I love The Warning. It's just like it's basically just a guitar solo, but with a couple lyrics in it. But it was my favorite Black Sabbath song for years. I remember even one of my girlfriends in the it was probably 1990 or something. She made like a mixed party tape for her barbecue that she was going to have with a couple of friends, and she put on The Warning as like my pick of the tape or whatever, and it was like such a party downer. Like I'm the only one like listen, everyone's like here dum dum, and just like it's like it just everybody was just like like it was like awkward. Like it was basically just like the party's rocking, all of a sudden it's just like awkward, and I'm like maybe I realized then that like the songs that are my favorite are probably everyone else's worst, but yeah, but anyway, I would say I have to say Black Sabbath, because that album, there's a magic to that album, and there's something special about having those four people just create something that was totally original and just them, that was captured on tape, that everything that I do and almost every single metal band does, it goes back to those roots of that album, regardless if it's like glammy or death metal or whatever, heavy metal. Like I mean doom metal's obvious, but whatever it is, Viking metal, any of that stuff, it all goes back to the first two or three Black Sabbath albums. I want to say Masters of Reality was another one that really impressed me a lot at listening to it again after not listening to that album for about 20 years. But I still have to say that Sabotage is still one of my favorites. There's something about that album. It's between Ozzy's vocal on that album and just the passion of that album, and it's just it's a great, just a fucking great album. I don't even know what to say, but to be fair, I'm one of the rare people, I think, that it's like I get pretty agitated when people say they like the first 5 or 6 Black Sabbath Ozzy album. It's like, no, all the way to Never Say Die to me is fucking mint. I will stand up for Never Say Die until my dying day. Those songs on there are fucking awesome. It's not my favorite, but it's my favorite when I'm sick of listening to all the other Black Sabbath Ozzy albums.
Well
It
said,
is my
well
favorite. And like I said, also Technical Ecstasy. I mean, some of those songs on there are so freaking heavy on an album, and the use of keyboards on an album to me is like a great use of keyboards. It's not that happy keyboards, total support. It's giving that creepy vibe on that album. I love it, but I still go with Sabotage and the first one, I think, are my favorites for today, even though my poser answer is I like all of Ozzy albums the same.
I gotta say really quick is I like Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. I just think they're not perfect albums the way the first 6 are. That's why I say it's the best 6 run of albums. It's the same thing with like Iron Maiden. Like they got that 5 album run, and I like Somewhere in Time, but I think it starts to break a little bit at that point. It's not perfect. It's still good, but and I like further albums. But to me, it like the first 6 are the main ones. That's all.
I get it. I just think it's, to me, I just think it's lame as fuck when people say that, because all it's basically saying is like you just don't dig deep into the band. That's all. It's basically saying like I'm a poser fan almost if you don't listen to and understand like the amazing, you know, talent of Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. I mean, the fact of listening to Never Say Die and hearing a band falling apart, but also still coming up with amazing stuff. I mean, songs like Shockwave on that, holy fuck, it's so fucking
Junior's
cool.
Eyes.
When those,
Yeah. Hell
yeah, those songs are I mean, I'm not even close to a Guns N' Roses fan, but I was so thought it was the coolest thing when they played some of those rare Sabbath songs. I was like, that's so fucking cool they did that, even though, you know, Axl Rose can't sing and I'm not a fan of the band, but it's still, I respect the fact that they didn't just go with the generics, because the generics are great. I just reviewed them and they're awesome. But for me, it's like listening to those really moments of just feeling the passion of the time and them dealing with what they're dealing with and coming out in the music. I mean, that's what is the beauty of, for me, with Black Sabbath, is that there's so much emotion put behind the riffs and the songs. Even if you don't like the songs, they like, you could tell it really means something. It's not just some tripe song that they're doing to make a pop song or something. At least that's my opinion, you know. And I'm kind of an elitist asshole sometimes on things when I truly believe in it. But Sabbath is like my kings of everything. If it wasn't for Sabbath, I definitely would not be doing what I'm doing, and probably all the music I like wouldn't exist the same way. Music would be a lot lamer. And another thing too, while I'm on my rant, is that if more bands would get into the room like Sabbath did for their first album and just fucking play and just do it and be honest with themselves, music would be so much better. Not worrying about all the trends, all the whatever. I mean, just think of being a Black Sabbath, I mean, a music fan, a hard rock fan in the, you know, late 60s or early 70s and listening to Black Sabbath. It was like ridiculously original, like so original. I mean, even though there was heavy stuff before, I mean, of course you had Jimi Hendrix, great Zeppelin, you know, Blue Cheer, all these bands, you know, they were doing heavy stuff, but no one did it like Sabbath. And they weren't, I don't think they weren't hanging out like, oh, we're going to create a whole genre that probably a million bands are playing now, but they did because of its honesty. And that's the best thing about any kind of music, is that the true honesty that those guys came up with and the true expression that they expressed with their music is just phenomenal. And I'm a fan of most eras of Black Sabbath, but there's no doubt that getting those four original guys in the room with just doing it is something, it's just a magical experience, the way that they all just vibe off each other. And it's a beautiful thing as a listener and as a musician, in my opinion.
I just imagine back in the 60s when, you know, everything's all love and rainbows and everything. And then people like turn on the song Black Sabbath and all the churchgoers are just like, and they just start pouring holy water on this record because it's like the tri-note and all the lyrics and stuff. I'm like, that's fucking metal as fuck. It's like,
and they're
it
being
went
honest
so
with
against the
themselves.
norm. It's just fucking amazing how these young kids put that together and just made something totally original.
I don't even know if there's something in music like that. It's hard. There's probably minor things or a couple things I'm not thinking about, but those moments are very far and few between that somebody comes up with something that far out of the box. I mean, we can't even really comprehend it because we all of us grew up in a time after Sabbath existed for a while. But just think in a world where Sabbath didn't exist and you're hearing this for the first time, it's like I don't even know what I would think. I don't even know if I would like it, because I would be like, what the hell is happening? You know,
it makes you wonder, was it thought of like the way extreme death metal is today? Like when someone's going from the 60s, like the Beatles and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden the Sabbath hits, and even like Hendrix, like it was more bombastic kind of sound. Like I always
Yeah.
think, like, did they see it as like grindcore almost, like the way we were when we were first hearing the
Yes.
real extreme stuff? And it's like
Probably,
you
yeah.
said, there was nothing like it, so
Let's-
you would think it's like that.
Even
One of
today,
the- yeah.
that song Black Sabbath is still one of the top most evil songs ever
Yeah.
recorded, in my
Oh,
opinion.
hell yeah.
Holy fuck, dude. It
Oh,
came
that's
out in
Yeah.
the 60s, and that's still one of the most evil songs I think I've ever created.
I
Absolutely.
was born the same week that album got released. I was born on February 10th, and 3 days later, on Friday the 13th, February 13th, they released the album. So I was born the same week as the first debut album. And I
It's
told the
still-
joke that I told the joke on the way home from the hospital when they were taking me home. I pointed to the record store, and my parents said, "Hey, let's get him his first record." And they bring me in, and I pointed at that Black Sabbath album, and I've had it. And I always say, "Oh, it was a great day. I got my first album. It was my first time in a car, my first time outside of the hospital." And
just that album cover with the painting, it's like
Yeah.
a picture perfect background, but just that
The Black
evil
Sabbath cover you can
witch on
find.
the front. It's just
it's
You
a
know, they
photograph.
found-
It's a
that
photograph.
perfect-
It's not
Yeah.
a painting.
Yeah.
It's a photograph.
Yeah,
There
they
was
found.
some-
yeah,
They
it's a
found the
that's what
girl.
but
Yeah,
They
I-
found that girl.
yeah, but it's like a picture perfect background, like nice background, and just that evilness in the middle of it. I know it's a photograph, but it's like you could paint that as a perfect, beautiful photograph with just evilness right there.
A lot of people were making the pilgrimage to it when they went over to this final Black
Yeah.
Sabbath show. I seen like Jim Florentine and Jim Norton there.
Yeah.
They made a pilgrimage to go there and get the picture.
That's
I
right.
would love to do that, get a picture with
It's
that house there.
Yeah,
probably
one
the
of these
cheapest
times gotta do that.
artwork they ever had. It's probably the cheapest artwork they ever had, but still, it's the best Sabbath artwork I ever seen. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
first album, because it's just, I don't know.
Paranoid was pretty fucking cheap looking too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Paranoid
It's
was
so
supposed to be a
iconic
war
though,
pig.
too. At the same time,
Yeah.
Yeah, Paranoid is supposed to be War Pig. It's
Oh,
supposed
no,
to be a War Pigs, and they
Sabotage
changed
got
it's
the best
supposed to.
the
cover.
name. Yeah. Yeah, my brother had a bass with that first Black Sabbath album cover painted on the back. I'd love to know whatever happened to it.
I like Sabotage's cover. It's just like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to take a band photo, put on whatever we've got. Fuck
Yeah,
it.
that's a big story
Yeah.
behind that too.
Oh, they
the-
got a
the
really
sa-
kimono
funny, yeah.
on.
Probably
Bill
the
Ward's
most
got
wicked.
his old lady's
besides that,
pants on.
yeah, but
It's just
besides that
great.
first album, man, probably the most wicked cover is actually the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath cover.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
that
Yeah,
is
that's great.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
going
and
back
and
to
I-
the Sabotage, though, you gotta bring up how they thought that was like a practice photo shoot. And he's wearing his wife's fucking Bill Ward's wearing his wife's fucking long johns or whatever. And
That's great.
at least they
Yeah.
could have had Bill sitting down. Like Tony's the only one sitting down in the picture. It's like, why not Bill? Because Bill sits down, plays the drums. At least it wouldn't look as bad. You'd just see like some
You
red
see
shit.
his
But
junk.
Well, just
yeah, it's fucking,
just think
yeah,
about doing your album and realizing that your underwear's showing through and it's all like polka dots and stuff. It'd be embarrassing as fuck,
But the
It's
thing
just so
about
weird
that,
because it's such a masterpiece of an album, and you
Yeah.
work so hard on this great album, and then when it comes time to the cover, like something like that happens, it like makes no sense. I'd be
But the
so
thing
mad
is,
if I
is-
worked so hard and then that ends up being the outcome at the end.
Yeah.
that cover's so
Can't picture
so
anything else
ingrained.
different though.
That cover's so ingrained in everybody now
Yeah.
that I couldn't see any other cover for that record.
No, you
Agreed.
couldn't.
And it was a good
Agreed.
idea. They had a good idea. It was like the reflection of the
Yeah.
back of them was going to be. It was a great like concept, and it was a
Mhm.
practice photo shoot that ended up being, Ozzy what he's wearing too. That stupid like kimono thing. It's like,
Kimono.
yeah, it's fucking.
Yeah.
I guess he said what Tony. Who did he sign? Somebody he wrote. What the hell is this? Homo or
Homo
whatever?
and a kimono. Or something
Homo and a
wrote on it.
kimono, yeah.
Kimono,
that's right.
kimono.
Ozzy would sign albums like that when he seen someone handed him that album. He's like, "What the fuck was
Yeah.
I thinking?" Oh,
That's great. Yeah. Wow.
Christian,
What's up?
your top two Sabbath, your top two Ozzy.
All right. Before I go into that, I'm going to go a slight rant. So one of the things that John just brought up about putting a Black Sabbath song on like a summer compilation, I kind of have a similar story to that. When I was in 8th grade, they do. I'm sure a lot of people do this where you're in high school or 8th grade, where they have like these class picnics where they go to some venue or something. So when I was in 8th grade, we went to a venue and they had a DJ there playing, whatever pop songs. I had my Black Sabbath greatest hit CD, and I like went up to the guy and begged him to put on the song Black Sabbath, and eventually he like relented and he put it on, but he only played it about halfway through and then he like turned it off. He's like, I'm like, why did you turn it off? He's like, I'm not playing this today. Here you go. And like shoot me away. But anyway,
Did everybody stop dancing?
yeah, everyone said, yeah, no one was.
It's a good party stopper.
Yeah, like
wah,
putting on
wah, wah.
he's playing. I don't know what songs he's probably playing, like Boys to Men or some shit like that. And then I'm coming on putting on the fucking first Black Sabbath album. It's like, fuck. But yeah. So first, if I'm going to start with Sabbath, my top two, it's easily or maybe not so easily, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and Sabotage. And I can't say which one's the number two or which one's the number one, because they're always, for me, they're always just like neck and neck right here. At least for me, it's like I love the ones that came before it, but I think those ones, it's like it's taking what they did on those first four albums and just going in a slightly different direction, a little more prog, whatever. Ozzy's vocals on both it's his best vocal performances, I think, on both of those albums. But yeah, you got songs like, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, songs like Symptom of the Universe, which, you listen to those songs coming out at that time. It's just like almost like the blueprint for just like extreme metal or anything else. But it's like no other bands really say. You could say that about any of the Sabbath albums really in those periods. But I think those ones, like a song like Symptom of the Universe, there was just nothing that I could think of that was coming out in 1975 that sounded that fast, that heavy. But at the same time, it's like the end of the song, it kind of goes in this kind of like hippie, trippy, folksy type thing. It's just goes in a completely different direction, but it works so well. It's just like the craftsmanship and just the songwriting is just, it's amazing.
It's genius.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as solo Ozzy, I think I'm going to go number two. I'm going to go with Blizzard of Oz. I mean, like everything that everyone else has been saying, Mr. Crowley, just like that whole keyboard intro is just freaking brilliant. The solo in that song is brilliant. Suicide Solution. I don't know. Of course, Crazy Train. Yeah, it's been played a bazillion times and it's overplayed. But you know what? It's like, if you listen to that song, if you take that out of your mind that it's overplayed and you listen to it, it's a fucking killer song. The other one I really like from that album, which one of the B-sides, that Me Looking at You, Looking at Me, I think that's the name of the song. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a great song. Like, why didn't they include? Because I think that's a better track than, I think it was like No Bone Movies.
Oh yeah, it would have been a lot better to switch them
with that.
I think, and I read this. I don't know if this is correct, if I read this or I'm just saying, but the reason they put No Bone Movies on the album instead is because Lee Kerslick has a songwriting credit on that one, and they wanted to have all the guys in the band have a songwriting credit. But I don't know if that's.
I thought there was a version of Blizzard of Oz with that on there as one of the tracks, but I can't remember right now.
There's a
remastered,
maybe like a remastered one. Yeah.
Was it only okay? I thought it was at the time, but maybe I'm wrong.
The first time it actually was added on the remaster was the one that had the drums and bass re-recorded. But then when they redid them again and put everything back the way it was originally, they included it on there.
Didn't they? Did it? That originally that was on the Mr. Crowley 7. I mean, the picture disc, right?
It was the B. That was the B-side to Crazy Train single.
That was You Said It All. You Said It All.
You Said It All. Yeah, You Said It All.
You Said It All. That's right.
That was on the Mr. Crowley picture disc or live EP.
Yeah,
I was getting confused. I forgot about
guitar
that song.
on that. Who plays guitar on that? Because it is Randy on that.
It's Randy. Yeah,
it is Randy.
I for some reason I always heard that it was somebody else played on that.
No,
That
those
Randy's
live
crappier
tracks,
solo.
those live tracks on the live Mr. Crowley, that's actually Lee and Bob on those tracks as well.
The song "You Said It All" though is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and
That's Randy on that song.
They wrote that song during and recorded it during a sound check, so it was like a one and done thing.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
So it's live.
yeah. It wasn't played in front of an audience. It was recorded during the sound check. They put the crowd noise over.
Like a lot of live albums.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, my number one for solo Ozzy has got to be Diary of a Madman. I love that album. The song Diary of a Madman. If there was one song I wish I could have seen Ozzy play live, that's like the one song. It's just, and I know like I don't think he wrote the lyrics to that, but I think like when he's like singing the lyrics to that, like it almost sounds like autobiographical, even though I don't think he would have wrote it, but the way he sings it, like you know, like he knows it, he lived it, you know.
If you okay, interrupt for a second.
Sure.
That's one of Ozzy's talents, is that he's able to take other people's lyrics and make it his own and somehow encompass it. It's a really good talent to have, especially if you're not a good songwriter, to be able to have that passion on someone else's lyrics, because not every singer, they could do it, but not Ozzy. Somehow it seems to, like, when you hear him sing it, you feel like these words were meant for Ozzy.
Yes.
It was a master of melody. It was a master of melody, and that's what they say is like his best skill that he had, was to make the melody go perfectly with it.
Yeah. And the other song I was thinking about that too, on Sabbath, that song "Thrill of It All," which is like, when I first heard the news yesterday, that was like the first song that popped into my mind, because it's just like, it's a heavy, but it's like such a positive, uplifting type of song.
Yeah.
But still very heavy at the same time. So that was like the first, like, you know, when I heard the news, that was like the first song that just like popped into my mind. But that's another one, like you said, like, we know Geezer wrote the words, but like the way he sings it, and like all the songs on those albums, he just sings it with like such passion and you know, enthusiasm, and just, you know, it's like he totally makes it his own, even if he didn't write the lyrics to it. He
wrote the writ.
Yeah, I was gonna say that he writ that one, right? About the legal problems they were having.
Okay,
with the former manager. Yeah,
and that's the most pissed off lyrics you ever heard him sing. Like, he's never sound more pissed off than he does on that song.
That's right.
Hell yeah. So yeah, those are my picks.
Excellent. So I guess we're back to me. My top two favorite Black Sabbath albums with Ozzy. I'm going to echo John McInty's sentiment here. My number two would be Never Say Die.
Hell yeah.
I fucking love this album so much. It gets shit on, and I don't care that it gets shit on. This is a fantastic goddamn album. It was so cool, like John said. Now I'm a massive Guns N' Roses fan. That's my band. That's the band that made me want to play music. That's the band that made me love music. So hearing them do Never Say Die in Junior's Eyes was fucking incredible. I didn't care that Axl sounded like shit that night. It didn't matter to me. Just the fact that they did those two songs, and Metallica doing Johnny Blade.
Yes.
Blew my mind. I instantly got an erection. It was fucking incredible.
I was not expecting that.
Not at all. Not at all.
When they started playing it, I was like, are they playing when I think they're playing? No.
Yeah, when they started busting into that riff, I'm like, yo, they're doing it. My girlfriend comes in the room. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, they're playing Johnny Blade. She's like, I don't know. He
was over there. They're playing Johnny.
Well, when they
excited?
Well, that's the funny thing, is like, probably like 90% of people like, what the hell are they playing? And like, for a small amount of people, like, they're like, holy fuck, I can't believe this. And everybody else is like, what's your problem? Like, I don't
Yeah,
even know what's happening now. Like, what song are they playing? You know, they
absolutely,
put,
absolutely.
Metallica
And
full
there's
stop.
That was
We go from here to
surprise.
to me, there's
like
not a
when I
bad
heard that.
moment on this, man. I love everything. We talked about Shockwave. Air Dance is so cool. It's so weird and jazzy
yes.
and
Yeah, it's
just
cool.
so cool. Over to You is one of my favorite tracks on this. I love that song. And not really Ozzy related, I guess, but I think Swingin' the Chain is one of the best songs that Black Sabbath ever wrote. The fucking riff in that
Mighty
is
Award.
disgusting.
Bill Ward.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
So that's
Yo,
my number two. My
You know,
I wish
real
fuck never to
quickly,
die
have you
though.
guys heard the Shockwaves live from the old bootlegs from
Yeah.
that time?
No,
Yeah.
So
Never heard
fucking
it.
cool.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So badass.
I got to check that
Yeah.
out. I didn't know they ever did that live.
I
Yeah,
imagine
did
it
it
would
li-
sound
yeah.
kind of heavy live. Like I think it would probably sound better
Yeah.
than what it did on the album. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounded.
That's
I mean,
that's what
the
I'm
ones I
talking
heard were
about.
fucking awesome.
I wish they would go back to Never Say Die and give it some top and bottom, like kind of get some warmth
Yeah.
into the sound.
Oh, like remaster it and remix it a little bit.
Yeah, kind of get it more natural. I would like to hear if there's some layers that hasn't come through.
Right.
I get
So
it.
my number
I get it.
one favorite Sabbath
National
album of all
Acrobat.
time.
It's a
Favorite
great
one of
album.
all time. There's again another one, not a dull moment. I love every second of music on this. Every single nanosecond is just
Mm-hmm.
even Fluff. I love Fluff so much. That's such a
Fluff is
cool
great.
going into that
But-
fucking great bluesy. But oh, I love that so
But
much.
Keep going.
I mean, the riff in Sabbath Bloody Sabbath 2 is really one of the fucking most classic metal riffs in history.
Yeah.
It's
No
so
doubt.
heavy and it's a genius riff.
No
At
doubt.
that time, there's like just nothing that could have compared to it. I couldn't even imagine listening to that album the first time when that came out, being like,
Right.
what the hell is that riff? Like, holy fuck, what kind of music is this?
Yeah.
So
And
heavy.
again, going back and forth, being like really heavy and then doing that kind of like whimsical, nobody.
Yeah.
But it's just like
Yes.
the way they just go back and forth. It's just,
Yeah,
it's
light
brilliant.
shade.
And even when bands cover that song, I don't think they quite do it justice the way that Sabbath does, and the way even just Ozzy sings it. They just it's like, yeah, they play it like it should be played, but it just doesn't capture the same essence that the way that original
No.
recording does.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
Tony's the riff
Agreed.
god, man.
I
He was
wasn't
the
a big
riff
fan of
god.
Anthrax's version. What's that?
No.
Tony Iommi's the riff god, man. That dude could come up with a riff and fucking just touch your soul.
Absolutely.
The way he plays is so awesome because he really maybe it's because of his fingers or whatever, but he shakes the riffs a lot of times where he just makes them sound fuller than what they would just going down. He'll do like just kind of like move it a little bit, not a lot, not enough to like knock it out, but enough to fill in this heaviness. I don't know how to explain it, but it's an amazing
vibrato.
thing.
Perfect.
Yes, yes.
Perfect.
I can never understand why more guitar players didn't like purposely smash their fingers, with like hammers. Sound, like I mean, if
Wanna
it's
play
your
like
favorite
Tony
guitar
Iommi.
player, your favorite
'cause
guitar player, how you gonna get as good as him? You gotta
That's
go
the whole
that route.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
the whole
how many
reason why they
fingers?
stopped tuning in Masters of Reality was because Tony said it felt better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the story I heard.
For him to
Yeah.
play. That's right.
Yeah.
Because there
Somewhere
was
out there,
like
someone has
anything
done that.
like
Someone
what's it
has
called?
smashed
Like,
their fingers.
there wasn't anything like proper you could put on the fingers like to get it right. So he made it something out of something himself. There wasn't like anything that he could actually
Yeah.
put on that.
Like a
Yeah, it was
thimble kind of thing.
wax and like leather. He would wrap it in
Yeah.
leather. But I pulled
Like-
this bootleg out really quick. It's Shockwave over Texas live 1978.
Yeah, I've got that one.
Yeah,
Right.
that's great.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number one Sabbath record. is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I reach for that one the most. I really like Who Are You on this.
Yeah.
This is a great song to listen to when you're fucking high. Holy shit.
Dude.
There's no guitar in it. It's just awesome.
It's just a keyboard.
That's the one that they recorded, that they did in the castle.
Yeah,
yes,
that's the record that they did in the
most of
castle.
this was done in the castle.
Yeah, Bill Ward was sleeping with a dagger.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was afraid.
That's right.
Yeah, fucking Ozzy was playing that shit in the fucking haunted castle. I'd sleep with a dagger too, trying to stab a motherfucker. Playing that creepy
shit. Bill just didn't want it. Bill just didn't want to be painted off.
Yeah, he didn't want to get spray painted again.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't want to get lit on fire.
Bill caught hell.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
So my
whose
top
whose car did they smash for Born Again?
Was
that
that
was Bill Ward's car?
Was that Bill Ward's car?
Yeah.
Poor Bill.
Poor
Bill
bastard.
They said they were Ford Granadas. I mean, like the most uncool cars ever, and they just went
fucking smashed that bitch.
So my top two Ozzy solo records. Number 2 is going to be Osmosis.
Nice.
I fucking love this album. We just did the
Tomorrow.
1995 episode not too long ago, and this was a top one from 95 for me. I love Zakk Wylde's guitar tone on this. It's so drenched in chorus. It's so heavy, but also you would call it a wet tone because it's so drowned in chorus. I fucking love every second of Zakk's playing on this. Every second of Ozzy's voice. Such a good album.
Needs
Thunder
a vinyl
Underground.
reissue. Needs a vinyl reissue really bad, man.
Agreed.
There's a bootleg out, but it'll come out now. Yeah, everything will be out.
I would think Sharon's going to re-release everything now that Ozzy's gone.
Yeah, because now
you can get it in that box set. You know, there's a vinyl of it in that box set, but they'll have it separate. Yeah, it'll come out.
Yeah, definitely. I love every second of music on this. Perry Mason, even though the lyrics are a little whack, that's a fucking great tune. Thunder Underground. See You on the Other Side, obviously, takes a little bit different of a fucking sentimentality now that Ozzy's passed. Tomorrow's a fantastic tune.
Yeah.
And another one with whack lyrics, but My Jekyll Doesn't Hide is a fucking great song on here.
Good riff.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's
I think that Perry Mason song, it starts off, it sounds so sick, and it seems like I'd be pissed if I was Zakk and I wrote that song and then Ozzy starts singing about Perry Mason. I don't know who wrote the lyrics to that, but I mean, maybe if I was a Perry Mason fan, if it was like a song about the Outer Limits or the Twilight Zone song,
Who
I would
wrote
think
that,
it'd be fucking
James?
awesome.
Was that a Mark Hudson? Is that a Mark Hudson pick?
That's credited to Ozzy Osbourne, Zakk Wylde, and Jay Purdell.
I don't know who Jay Purdell is.
Neither do I.
At the time that I was listening to Altars of Madness and the other death metal stuff, the last thing I wanted Ozzy to be singing about was Perry Mason.
Yeah,
he didn't do any justice to like the old school fans. You know, it's kind of like, really, that's where you're going now.
When you hear that music before he starts singing the words and stuff, it sounds really cool. Like it's got a really cool. Like it sounds like something could have been on Diary of Madman or something. And then it goes into this stupid Perry Mason chorus, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Hey Zakk, Zakk is like, "Yeah, I got this cool riff, Ozzy. What we gonna sing about? Like heaven and hell, or life and death?" Oh, we're singing about Perry Mason today.
I'm watching smell VHS, man.
That's a good idea. I gotta do that. Our next practice is come up with some ridiculous idea.
He must have been a big Raymond Burr fan.
Yeah, he was in Godzilla, the not so good one, but he was in it.
Do a song about chips or something like that.
Or
Yes,
cheese.
yeah.
Quincy, do a Quincy song about autopsy.
Yes.
Quincy.
Kojak.
Quincy,
Matlock.
Quincy. I grew
Matlock.
up with Andy Quincy.
Like, yeah.
Quincy. Holy shit, you pulled Quincy out of nowhere. That's right, Sam.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. So my number one favorite Ozzy solo album is Diary of a Madman, just like most of you guys.
Oh yeah.
Another one,
Yeah.
Great.
just solid from beginning to end. Not a bad moment on it.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you love to hear a live version of "You Can't Kill Rock and Roll" with Randy playing that?
Yeah.
I like what
Mm.
Count what Ralph Fiera said. Love to hear those songs where just let the solo that
Oh,
and
yeah.
Tonight. Just I would love to hear uncut where they didn't fade out the solos at
Yeah.
the end. Just you know.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
absolutely. So yeah, what can I say about this that hasn't been said already? It's just a fucking flawless record. Favorite one off this one for me is probably SATO. I love that too.
Great track. Yeah.
Fucking great
Yeah.
track. So there's
I
my
think-
fucking 2-1 for
I think
Ozzy.
little drummer.
Sharon Arden, Delma Osbourne. That's what it stood for.
Sailing across the sea.
Yeah. He
Wait,
said
that's serious.
he said it stood for Sharon Arden, Delma Osbourne. Yeah.
Wow.
But I
I
think
didn't
it
know
was
that.
originally, I think Bob Daisley said in his book what it was originally titled, like Voyage or something like that, or I can't remember.
Okay.
You know,
I always
you
thought it
guys-
was sailing across the ocean.
Yeah, and the lyrics
Yeah.
kind of make you think that even more because
Yeah.
there's like part about sailing and stuff. in there.
Right.
you know,
Oh, shit.
did you guys ever hear the Living Loud stuff? That was after that whole lawsuit with Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslick, where they were pushed out of their publishing and their performance royalties or whatever, and they re-recorded those tracks like I mentioned earlier on the first two records. Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslick formed a band, and they wanted to play some of the stuff that they wrote. So it's those two guys with Steve Morris from Deep Purple on guitar, and Jimmy Barnes, who is like the Australian Bruce Springsteen. Great singer, really, really good
I
singer
remember that.
on vocals, but he sounds nothing like Ozzy. And they released an album where they wrote some original stuff, but they're doing songs from the first two Ozzy records, including Tonight, Mr. Crowley, Over the Mountain, and hearing their take on it. They're playing it pretty much like the regular versions, but Jimmy sings nothing like Ozzy. And of course, Steve Morris is not even
He's a
trying
totally different
to play.
guitar player.
Yeah, he's not trying to do what Randy does, but he's in the ballpark. And it works. It's really good. I listen to it at work a lot. We play it because I play people like, well, what is this? You know, it's if you can find it's called Living Loud. It's online. You can find it on YouTube.
I remember that.
Check that out.
Yeah,
Does
they did
the
a
guy
live,
sing anything
live
like
DVD.
Bruce Springsteen?
No. I just mean
thank God.
He's looked at like the working class hero dude over in Australia. But no, he's got a great voice. He's just got a really cool, like smoky, bluesy voice, but he can get a little bit high range. Really good singer. He was in a hard rock band called Cold Chisel from over there.
Kind of like that Walker dude who played in Sabbath for a little bit, like that kind of like
like the Dave Walker thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Dave Walker. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Really
Did
cool.
Lee Kerslake sing on that too, though? Because he sang with some of the stuff with Uriah Heep. I knew.
He's singing backing vocals and stuff, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't do any lead vocals. I mean, he may have did some lead vocals in parts in Uriah Heep, but he was mostly like backing vocals and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, great drummer, man. That dude was so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just watched a thing the other night. It was called Get on the Bus, and it was an interview with Tommy Aldridge, and he's talking about having to come in and learn to play those parts, and he talks about the plane crashers I've never heard him talk about before.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Tommy Aldridge is such a good drummer. He's such a good drummer. I mean, he's probably, I know, in the 70s, but he hits harder than the most.
He's
videos
great.
of him been popping up of him playing like those songs and stuff. And dude,
Yeah.
even in his age, he still gives it his all when he plays them songs.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
He should have
does.
been. He should have been invited to the final show. They should have had him
Yeah.
up there instead of that fucking guy from like Blink 182 or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of people that should have been there that weren't there, and it's just it's a shame. I don't think Tommy's got any beef with him or anything either. I mean, I understand she's got beef with Phil Sushan and Bob Daisley, but it's time. It would have been time to brush that under the rug and invite everybody to come out and be a part of things. You know.
There was also I
least-
picked it from
What was up?
Megadeth, because Megadeth is the only of the big four that didn't attend, and he just said that everybody couldn't be invited. But I don't know.
James Lomenzo said they just weren't invited. That's why they didn't play.
I find that a little weird because they're having three out of the big four, and so Megadeth, they cover Paranoid like really well, I think.
They did Never Say Die well too. I think maybe because Dave Mustaine's just not a very nice, pleasant person.
But they were supposed to do his final tour. They were on their final Ozzy tour that got like canceled.
Yeah,
So they
that's
were
right.
like they were right there with them. It is kind of weird that they did.
Yeah,
But then I mean Vinny Appice didn't get invited. There's so many people that should have just been there, you know. But they tried to focus it more on Ozzy and not Black Sabbath. But since it was Black Sabbath, you could have had them instead of Izzy Hale and all these people that like don't really have any kind of connection to it, you know.
True.
There was a few people there that's, you know, like the ambassadors of metal, like Corey Taylor and Dave Grohl that weren't there. You know,
The guy from Living Color and Sammy Hagar there and stuff, you know.
Yeah, that was weird. That was very weird. But
Or
hey,
Steven
it
Tyler
is
even.
it is what it is. Yeah. Steven Tyler didn't even do a Sabbath song or an Ozzy song.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was fucking weird.
Yeah.
He should have got
But
George.
He sounded good.
He should have got George Lynch and be like, "Yeah, George, I kicked you out of my band before you got to play." I mean,
Twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah,
George Lynch was supposed to be the guitar player twice.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I heard one of the reasons why he got kicked out is because he had short hair at the time, and Ozzy didn't like that. But
that's
Ozzy
a sad
had
story too, because he said he quit his job he was driving a liquor truck and he quit his job to take the Ozzy gig. He had a wife and a kid, and he said he's standing right there. And Jakey Lee auditioned. He looked at Jake. If you're hired, you're fired.
Yeah,
he said he went out to his car and cried because he didn't have a job and he had a wife and kid.
He said the whole reason why is because he had short hair at the time because of his job. And then Ozzy was like, "Well, your hair is not short." He's like, "Ozzy, you got a shaved head."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Ozzy was weird looking back then.
Steven Tyler doing Train Kept It Rolling. He could have called it Crazy Train Kept It Rolling just to make it a little more unique and fit the.
He could have, but
he didn't. Yeah, there's a lot of nitpicking we can do.
I mean, just he could have. Just she could have been there instead of.
Gus G wasn't fucking there, man.
No, he could have been there instead of what's the name of that dork that plays with the guitar under his chin?
Who plays guitar for who?
The dork that plays with the guitar under his chin.
Oh, the Tom Morello guy, right?
Yeah, Tom Morello.
He does metal is.
Oh yeah.
Here's the thing. I know most of the panel probably doesn't like Tom Morello, and I'm a huge fan. But Tom Morello put the show together.
He was the musical director. Yeah. He was hired to be musical director.
Yeah, he could produce it, but he doesn't have to be on the stage.
He should have played. He put the show together.
He should have played in the parking lot with all the other people that shouldn't have like really even been there, and then had like all the other guys that we're talking about.
Right.
You know, you got to wonder though.
Talking.
One thing I wonder, so when Ozzy first started doing the solo thing, he had a short person that he used to call Ronnie.
Yeah,
to make fun of.
He did.
Is that I got to wonder if that short person is still around? Could they have brought him out?
No, he got killed. He got killed.
Really?
He got hung
oh no, that's sad.
During an Ozzy concert.
They really hung him.
Mythos.
That was real.
The mythos.
They killed him every night.
And then
Really?
one night it just, you know, snapped
There
his
was
little
a
neck.
Is he like the Wizard of
How much
Oz
can he take?
midget?
Yeah, he's like that guy swinging in the background. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
You
Wait,
know
hold up.
that
Him in the that's him in the
hold up,
background of the Wizard of Oz. He got in a DeLorean, went 88 miles an hour, went back to the filming of the movie. That's the mythos.
there was a
Well, one
rumor
question I
going
have.
around.
That's why it's called the Wizard of Oz.
And you could
There was a
sync it
rumor
up
going
to
around.
Blizzard. If you
Connection there,
sync it
all
up,
right.
if you sync it up to Blizzard of Oz, you can watch the movie with.
Yeah.
That would be
Well,
cool.
So
That
So,
that
I just
little
wanna
guy.
say-
There was a rumor going around for a while that he was the same midget that played R2D2. It was Kenny Baker playing it, but it's not him. His name was John something. He's thanked in the Speak of the Devil record, I believe.
the question I have though is that the same midget that Black Sabbath hired for Born Again?
It may have been
They had a
the one
midget
that the one that
after
Good
at
one.
the one that
Born
fell
Again. They had the
and
midget
screamed.
demon. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
Well,
one.
You
later
heard him
on,
scream.
he joined Kid Rock, and Kid Rock had him as like a.
What's up
His
with all the
Josie.
midgets and
It-
Sabbath?
He was Joe
3'9"
C.
with a 10-foot dick. Wait a minute. So hold up though. I just learned something new tonight. Is Count Ralphus fucking with me? Where you said that the fucking little guy got hung during Ozzy and he died that night?
No, that's just
No,
like one of
no.
those things. Like it's like
Yeah.
how
Well,
Ozzy
yeah,
eats
well,
bats
that
every
takes me-
night and stuff.
I got to go here in a second, guys, but I want to say that brings up something we need to talk about. Remember growing up now, especially us of my age, when we were coming up with Ozzy. Remember all the crazy Ozzy tall tales you'd hear about? Ozzy said somebody brought some puppies to a show, and he said he wouldn't play a note till the puppies were dead on the stage.
Yes. I
I've heard
remember
all
that.
of that.
And then there's the
Alex,
fucking everybody in the front row spits in the bucket, and then Ozzy drinks it all. And
Yes.
throws up
Yeah.
in the
I heard
bucket.
that one
He'll
too.
drink your throw up, but
That
then
one was
you
true,
hear
yeah.
like real accounts of him snorting ants and stuff. So you
Yeah.
kind of wonder like.
Also heard
Yeah,
he killed his first wife's. I heard he killed all the cats.
That's like a
I
true
think-
story.
I
Yeah, he
think
went
Yeah, that's what I
crazy. That's
heard.
like that's in like his
shot
book,
chickens.
even, Yeah, he would he
Yeah.
took his gun out and just started shooting. He would be out of his mind with a gun,
Yeah, they were all kind. I remember listening to Speak of the Devil, and there's a part in the song Black Sabbath where it's just really low. You just hear like the dun dun dun. You hear Ozzy. It sounds like a crow or something. He goes, "Gah!"
Yeah, I remember.
And my friend said that's when he eats the bird.
Oh, that's fucking
It's
great.
crazy, man.
Also,
So
like
many
the sto-
crazy rumors.
Also, I don't know how true this is. I also heard the story of when Randy Rhoads joined the band. Well, auditioned for Ozzy. Said he walked in the room. Ozzy was passed out on a couch, just passed out. He said he just plugged in his guitar and started playing, and then Ozzy didn't move. And then he said he walked out. He didn't know what to think of it. And then later on, they called him up and said, "Yeah, Ozzy loved you." He was like, "How? He was passed out the whole time."
Yeah, I've heard
that's
story.
that's why Sharon was super important, because it wasn't Ozzy
Yeah.
scoping out musicians and stuff. Like Sharon saved him and fucking
Yeah.
put all those musicians on right into his band, and she did
Yeah.
so much work like that. And everybody likes to shit on Sharon. She's definitely a fucking bitch, but especially what she did with the Iron Maiden and all
Iron
that
Maiden
stuff,
and the
but
eggs.
I actually read her book. I read her book, and it was really fucking enjoyable read. If you're like a huge Ozzy fan, you'd be surprised how good Sharon's book is. There's a picture of her with like Lemmy, and Sharon's got a black eye from Ozzy like hitting her and stuff, and
Oh,
it's just
wow.
crazy stories and stuff she had. She gives a lot of real crazy stories, but she really saved them, and he had a great career because of her.
Well,
Well,
she
yeah,
grew
I
up. I mean,
think
her
Sharon
father was like a notorious like mobster guy that
Yes.
basically ran Jet Records and was known for like dangling one of the members of ELO out of the window, hanging him by his.
Right.
He was the Suge Knight.
ankles.
He was the Suge Knight of like,
Exactly.
England.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna say that.
I think Sharon Osbourne I mean, there's a lot of questionable things that she does, and I can't say I agree with her, but as far as a manager and a wife, she is top notch. I mean, she stood up for her man. She made her man, who he is really,
Yep.
gave him all the opportunities. She deserves a lot of credit. Maybe some of her tactics I don't agree with, but as far as, like that's a pretty damn dedicated spouse you have there,
Oh yeah.
I was
and
watching.
manager.
She was like a pit bull too. Like
Yeah.
people were
Yeah.
afraid of her.
I was watching something today. Remember when back in the like 2000s Brett Michaels had that Rock of Love show that was on for a while.
Yes.
But they
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
like a
I'm
they did like
obsessed
a
with that
James was
show.
the
I
first
love
one to
it.
be like, yeah.
I'm
they did like a
obsessed with
charm
that
school
show.
one, and this girl
I've
and
never seen
Sharon
it.
Osbourne was talking to this one chick. She's in like a bikini. She was like, "Yeah, I'd get with Ozzy because he's a famous rock star," and she started fucking her up.
Oh, I just seen the clip of that today.
That's
Like
what I'm
some
talking. I
girl,
just seen it
but
today.
I didn't know that was from that show. I didn't know what the clip was from. I'm like, what the fuck
Wow.
is this? Sharon gets up and then everybody's breaking them apart, and then the girl's like
Yeah.
leaving in like her underwear or something, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Started fucking her up.
Yeah.
So
That's
what I would
crazy.
like to do now, and we'll start with Tony Dio because Tony Dio's got to go. I would like to give everybody the floor for as long as you want and just talk about Ozzy and say what you want to say. Eulogize or just reminisce or anything you want to say. Go ahead and talk about Ozzy. Tony Dio, you go first.
Okay, well, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because we've talked about everything tonight pretty much, and I'm just I'm glad I'm glad we had Ozzy. There'll never be another Ozzy. He's an innovator. He's part of the invention of heavy metal, the first band, and he had an excellent career. He always stayed um, in the know of what was happening. I mean, he was always he never really died out. He came back strong with his solo career. He went through all the various changes in music, and he always, stayed out there on top of things. And I'm proud to say he was just a great performer. And I'm glad I'm part of the earth when he was, because he's been a big inspiration in my life over the years. I mean, like I said, listening to Ozzy and Sabbath, it gets you through a lot of things, And yeah, so hail Ozzy Osbourne, long live Ozzy Osbourne.
Absolutely.
Or maybe I'm doing the Dio thing. Maybe I need to do this,
Yeah.
long live Ozzy Osbourne.
It's got to be the peace sign. It has to be.
Yeah.
Ovi.
All right. Yeah. Well, look, guys, I'm gonna take off. Good night to
Yeah,
everybody, man.
All right.
Later, Tony Dio.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining tonight and being a part of this.
Thank you for having me, guys. Good to see everyone.
Absolutely. Ovi,
Yeah.
let's hear a final word from you.
I just wrote what I wrote on all the tributes I made of him. I just say the Titan has fallen, and I hope they bury him right, and like so will be maybe a chance for people that didn't get to see him or didn't get to hear him live to like go to his final resting place and get their final respects and kind of give him he, even though he is not above the ground, they can still kind of like have a spot to go to and still talk about memories and talk about how and tell the next generation how he was and just keep his spirit alive.
Well, Sharon's taking them on a funeral tour, so they're gonna have merch and
Yeah.
they'll be coming to they'll be in Norway, I think,
Yes.
in like February.
It'll be a Black Sabbath show with Ozzy's casket there.
Yeah, as long as they bury him right, I don't care.
Ed Farsty.
All right. Yeah, Ozzy. I mean, Ozzy started everything. I mean, pretty much everything that we and everyone we know hold dear and loved in our hearts came from Ozzy. It's all spanned from Black Sabbath, everything in our lives. So this is a really monumental moment losing Ozzy. He's one of the big ones. like Lemmy, like Dio. It's like you can't get any bigger in our world. So this is a sad day, and Ozzy will always be remembered, always be treasured, and his legacy will live on forever. Everything he
Mhm.
did, and he, more than a rock star, more than a metalhead, he transcended and he became part of every generation in one way or another. So he was truly an incredible man, and I'm so glad he got to do that last concert 2 weeks ago. Seeing
Mhm.
his face and the smile and just him looking out, that made his life. That's what he was. He was a stage man. He wanted to be on stage more than anything. That's what he loved. That's what he reveled in. You could see it from his earliest performances to the last one. He loved being on stage performing. So seeing him do
Mhm.
it one last time, sitting there on his throne, was magical and the greatest way to go out. I wish he would have lived for years to enjoy his legacy and just be in peace, but now he really is at peace. So Ozzy, rest in peace, brother.
Mhm.
Miles.
It's just hard to think that Ozzy's gone because I think we've all here said it at one point. Like we've all heard the the stories of excess and all that health stuff that he got, but he just seemed to keep going. And I think all of us said at one point, like Ozzy's never gonna go. I know I thought that at one point, like there's no way Ozzy's going, like there's no way. But the day finally came yesterday, and it's still like when I heard the news, I still couldn't believe it because being a metalhead is just like growing up. It was Ozzy was one of the first ones I've ever heard, and then all of us being metal musicians and metal enjoyers, you know, there's the forefathers that I always call them. There's Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, and Ozzy Osbourne, and we lost one of them yesterday. And just from me growing up, always seeing Ozzy everywhere, from the Osbournes, all the movie roles that he did, he was just one of those icons. He just always been there, and like Tony Dio said, he always stayed in the know. Like he was always still putting out records. Like he was, even if they were not as good as we would have hoped they've been, or our musical taste changed, he was still putting out records, and he was still out there performing. Like Ed said, he was still out there, and it's rough to see that one go. There was, with Lemmy gone, Ronnie James Dio gone, now Ozzy moving on, you know. But Ozzy lived to be 76 with the life that he lived to be 76, and Keith Richards is still alive. I think I'm I feel a lot better about life.
No doubt. Count Ralphus.
Yeah, it's fucking absolute legend. Most Black Sabbath, most important band ever to me. And we were mentioning like how everything will come out. Like, now everything's gonna come out. I think it's gonna be for the rest of our life. We'll be getting new Sabbath stuff. Not new, but like stuff that hasn't been officially released. I think his kids will take over his legacy as time goes on. And then it'd be stupid to just shove everything out there. Right now, we're hearing that Sabbath is flying off the shelves just from the last show. It was like a huge boost for people to run out and want to get these Sabbath albums and stuff. So now, they can ride that for the rest of the year, and then slowly start putting stuff out and just, keep it coming. So we just keep getting newer Ozzy stuff, throughout the rest of our lives, probably. I mean, I bring up like how like Jimi Hendrix, there's still a new album every like 2 years. That guy has been dead for 50 years, and it's like every couple of years you get a new Jimi Hendrix album. So like let it keep coming out. Don't overflood it right away. Give us I know I'm gonna start revisiting more of the later Ozzy catalog. That like I said, I bought every album, and I always kept up with it. But like I bought that last Patient Number 9. I remember going, okay, who's on this song, and like really looking at it. And I listened to it like twice, and I just haven't gone back to it. So now I'm gonna try to go back. I did the same thing with Dio. I started really appreciating some of those later albums that I wasn't really listening to back when they were coming out. And I like the idea that we got Ozzy's going to be with us forever. He's immortal. Fucking Ozzy rules. He'll be missed, and that's it.
Yeah, because Patient Number 9 was recorded in 2021 and 22. That's 3 years ago. So there must be something maybe done this last few years.
I remember when I went to get that, I went to Rock Fantasy and it was sold out. And then the second time I went back, it was sold out again. And then the third time when I went back, I just would go every week, and like he kept selling out of it. I was like, that's fucking awesome that he's doing so good, But then when I did get it, I got like the special comic book version that came with it. It was like a special edition comic book version. And another quick thing I forgot to mention is just the Ozfest really quick is how important the Ozfest was. Another great thing for Sharon, like she's really responsible for that. But they want Ozzy they try to get Ozzy on Lollapalooza, and they made it like, oh, it's dinosaur music when you don't fit with this crowd. And they were like, fuck you, and we'll start our own fest. And then their fest blew away Lollapalooza, and it really a ton of bands that played and really made careers out of. They get on Ozfest and then they end up having a huge career after that. So just the importance of revitalizing metal through the Ozfest and stuff like that. I think that's something that's just got to be mentioned because it's like super important what that did, for metal in general. Like, and he's already the band that Black Sabbath is responsible for metal, and everything I love, I think stems from that. When it comes to music, everything I truly love stems from Black Sabbath, and they'll always be my favorite band of all time. Hail Ozzy.
Absolutely. John McInty, what do you got?
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, everybody already kind of said all that needs to be said as far as Ozzy's legacy and stuff. It's pretty obvious anyway. What I just want to maybe elaborate more on is just that it kind of cracks me up because I see some like negative people reacting to the Ozzy thing, and it's just like, I mean, not negative, like negatively about Ozzy or whatever, which I think is just ridiculous because I get it that Ozzy's done some questionable stuff that everyone's gonna like. No one's gonna ever like the path that somebody takes in life with certain things, But the fact of the matter is that if you play metal, listen to metal, and you don't, at the minimum, just respect Ozzy and respect Black Sabbath and respect, Randy Rhoads and Jakey Lee, all these people that put these fundamentals down that, create the music that we love, that some of us, play in bands and we're able to, use that as an early inspiration to even pick up an instrument or, just being a fan of the music, like, picking up some new band now that you might really like wouldn't exist if Black Sabbath didn't exist. So I think it's, even if you don't, people that don't even get it, that are into any kind of heavy music should, tip their hat off to him. And I think at his back to the beginning thing, I thought it was cool, even though a lot of the bands I either didn't like the bands or I didn't even know who the hell some of these people were. But the fact that they were all there showing appreciation to what Black Sabbath and Ozzy did, I think was a good thing. And it's a correct thing because, I think as a person and as someone that loves this kind of music or whatever should be proud of the people that gave you the path to do it, and Black Sabbath did that. So I think that aspect is really important. And anybody that complains about Ozzy or just focuses in on the Sharon BS or whatever kind of stupid stuff goes on is really missing the point. The point is that like none of us would be here. We wouldn't be doing the Rock Fantasy Files. We'd be doing like the whatever, like some lame music files or something like that, or whatever. So it's
Fantasy Files.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I think it's we all should be proud of Black Sabbath's accomplishments and like I said, metalhead, hard rock dude, whatever you want to say. We all need to be grateful, especially at a time when icon like Ozzy, passes away, it's time to think of all the positive things that Ozzy has done in his life and the positive impact he had on. I mean, I don't even know how many. I wouldn't even say millions. It might be billions of people.
Yeah.
that he
Yeah, might
touched
be,
with his
might be.
music, which
Yeah.
which is just absolutely insane. But it needs to be appreciated. I think that's what I think.
Well said.
I was so
Thank you.
sure out of the four, I know Tony Iommi survived cancer and stuff. Out of the four, I was sure Bill Ward was going to go first because of his lifestyle.
Poor Bill. He's always getting the short end of the stick. He got his car trashed. He got painted on and always said he was going first one to kick the bucket.
They tried to light him on fire too. I think when they recorded.
Yes, they
Heaven and
did
Hell,
light
they-
him on
Poor
fire.
Bill, man.
And they wrote a song about him, Nib, instead of Nativity in Black, like we were saying, SATO.
Right.
And,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did read that.
it's
Mhm.
actually
I did read
about
that.
fucking his chin. And he looked like a nib or whatever.
Poor Bill.
Yeah. Christian,
Yeah.
the floor is yours, brother.
All right. I guess one thing to say about it that maybe we didn't touch on too much is just like his sense of humor.
Yes.
And I saw actually, I know he dropped off now, but Tony Dio posted one of those concert intros up on Facebook earlier this morning, I believe. And I saw that because I remember the first time I saw Ozzy, he did one of those concert intros. And the one he did was with Forrest Gump. Like that's the first one you see. It's like, the scene from the movie, he's sitting on the bench. And actually I watched it today because Tony posted the link to it. And Ozzy says to him, he's like, why don't you just get the fuck out of here? And then you see Forrest just running off. It's a fucking funny. I remember like seeing that at the show, like everyone just started like fucking laughing their asses off. But then there's another one where it's the movie Apollo, was it Apollo 13 or Apollo 11? Okay.
Apollo 11.
Apollo 11, right. Where it's like they're out in outer space, and then you see Ozzy in the spacesuit like come up, like knock on the window, like let me the fuck in or something. It's hilarious.
Mhm.
I mean, and yeah, the other thing, go back what John was saying back, in the 80s when he did that Phyllis Diller look. No one could have pulled that. No other like metal or hard rock person could have pulled that shit off. But Ozzy pulled it. He may have looked fucking ridiculous, but he pulled it off. You look at and I love the Ultimate Sin music video where it's like Ozzy oil and it's just like the most like ridiculous thing, but it's just the way he does it. Or the other one from that era, Lightning Strikes, where he's like the fucking Godzilla. Like it's so fucking silly, but it's like it's awesome at the same time. It's like
Yeah,
it's so bad it's good, but it's awesome.
entertaining.
Yeah, it's but aside from just like his sense of humor, just the way we're talking metal legends. When Dio went, it's like all the metalhead and hard rock people were upset. Or Lemmy, the same thing. A legend falls. It's like it's not like just like the hard rock and metal people. It's just like you just see so many different people that are just like saying something about him because he transcended it. I think not even just from the reality TV show, but I mean I think popularity, record sales, yeah, that put him more in into the popular conscience or pop culture type of world, whatever you want to say. But it's being a metal person, it's like sometimes it's like when the more mainstream people start paying attention to the band, maybe you get like a little, I don't know, upset or whatever. But it's like, you know what? It's fucking Ozzy Osbourne, man. Like you could tell he reached so many people, and there's so many people that are just like touched or moved by his passing. It's he's left this mark on this planet like not many musicians have. So fucking long live Ozzy.
Cheers.
Beautifully said, my Connecticut brother.
Thank you.
So yeah, I guess we're gonna end with me, huh? One thing that I don't think we touched on very much, but I guess we sort of kind of did. A couple of you guys touched on with Ozfest and stuff is the fact that he launched so many goddamn careers.
Mm-hmm.
Bands that he brought on tour with him, like Motley Crue, like Metallica, that blew up after going on tour with him. So important. You know, another thing that just made him so goddamn important. Another thing that I feel like we didn't really hit on as much as I would have liked to was not only him being a part of Black Sabbath and starting what we know as heavy metal. So starting a fucking genre of music, but then also starting a subgenre of music within that genre of music, meaning doom metal. Um, just so
And
Black
stoner metal too.
Important.
Like three fucking genres, you know.
Well, that's it. With Doom,
Every
you're
genre for
splitting
me.
hairs, kind of saying, all right, it's Doom, it's Stoner, it's Funeral, it's Death Doom, it's but just the umbrella of Doom under
I was
the
about to say
umbrella
it.
of metal, is just that can't be fucking expressed enough to where the dude helped create a big thing and then a thing under the thing is fucking so brilliant. To echo Christian sentiment, his sense of humor, man, just the fact that he didn't take himself very seriously is one of my favorite things about him, one of the things that always endeared me to him, because listening to him sing lyrics that might not have been his personal lyrics that he wrote, but the way he conveyed lyrics made you believe that was his fucking song, even though it wasn't. It was Geezer's lyrics, it was Bob Daisley's lyrics, maybe sometimes it was Lemmy's lyrics, but the way he sang and the way he owned it, it made you believe it was fucking Ozzy's song, and it still talked to you. It still tugged at your heartstrings. It's still just, fuck.
Yeah, it's like almost an empathic thing.
Yeah.
It really is. It really a very
Yeah.
That's wow. That's perfect. Empathic. Absolutely.
I got it really quick. Is that I just forgot that didn't mention is that it always reminds me of Lemmy playing right up to the end, and Lemmy dies 17 days after his
I saw
final
that.
show,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
fucking Ozzy the same exact thing. How weird is that? That's just such a weird
Yes.
thing. It's a storybook ending for both of them. But
I thought about that this morning too. I'm like, wow. Like I looked up the timeline from Ozzy's last show to his death, and then Lemmy's last show to his death, and yeah, it's literally just a matter of days with those two guys.
Lemmy always said that
it
he
is
was gonna
17,
die
17
in
days,
around
both of them.
Christmas.
Yeah,
They were both exactly 17 days from their last performance.
that's crazy. What were you saying,
One
Ovi?
fun, Lemmy said for a long time he was gonna pass or go away, like in December, like in Christmas time, as he did.
Well, he
Right.
also said he wanted to die on stage. Like he wanted to keep going to
Yeah.
the very
Yeah.
last.
A fun thing about Ozzy, though, I see that I interviewed him from '86 when he is interviewed and he's pouring juice in a glass, and I mean 90% of the juice gets outside the glass, and he's talking about Black Sabbath, like we are doing drugs, but we outgrew them and stuff, and we like stopped doing it because like did so you're doing better now? No,
Well, that
Yeah.
supposedly that was all staged though. That's part of the Western
Yeah.
decline of
Yeah, but it's so
Western
funny.
civilization.
His
Yeah,
humor. I
decline
was
of
getting at
Western
his humor.
civilization.
So funny.
Yeah,
Which
it's
goes
funny,
back
so.
to his sense of humor. That whole scene in that movie, that decline of Western civilization, so good, so fucking
But those
good.
intros that he used to do before the shows, where he was jumping in and out of movies and different
Mhm.
music videos.
Yeah,
stuff, it
Christian
was
was just talking about
yeah,
that.
you
Yeah.
piss your pants watching that shit live.
Mm.
It's fucking
Absolutely. Um, the guy was just so lovable, man. He was so fucking lovable. There was nothing about him where you were like, this guy's probably a dick. Nothing ever, not once. Like,
Oh,
he is just such a fucking lovable human being. He was like, you wanted to bring him home and fucking hang out with him all the time. It's just such a fucking good human being, such a pure good human being. Like, you watch interviews with him and he talks about life things and he's just so pure and fucking innocent, even though he's done so many crazy goddamn things. Just such a fucking pure guy, man. Like, just a good soul. Like,
and the way
not
he
a
ended it doing a charity show, the charity show, and I just
yes.
heard that it's actually it made over $200 million for those charities, and
Wow.
it's more than Live Aid. Live Aid back in the day that had Zeppelin, Queen, all those bands that only made like $100 million, and then like
Wow.
the next other two biggest charity, it's the biggest charity event of all time, the most money ever raised for a single night charity event
Oh,
in
that's
the
Support
record
beautiful.
books.
all that.
That's beautiful.
Crazy.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad I bought that fucking show the day of too, man. That was such a good show. Um, my only other note is I fucking love glam Ozzy. We were talking about Ozzy having the fucking crazy hairdo and all that. I love glam Ozzy. I love Bark at the Moon, Ultimate Sin, No Rest for the Wicked. I fucking worship that shit.
Ultimate Sin is his most underrated album
I
because
agree.
That's a good one.
Killer and
Yeah.
Brian.
I agree.
There's
It's
so many.
weird.
If you look away from Shot in the Dark, that album is so good.
It's
I
weird because he
agree.
had that goofy glam image at that time, and I hated it because it was like, Motley Crue was so big that like everybody was jumping on that kind of wagon at Judas Priest with Turbo and stuff. So it opened the doors for me to just keep going heavier and heavier to more Slayer and kind of stuff like that. But he actually takes Metallica out though on that tour. So he's
That's
got
right.
this heavy as hell thrash band at the time, and then his goofy image, but that definitely turned me off to not just Ozzy. It seemed like even Dio at one point was kind of spooging his hair up a little bit, and they were all
Dio
just
got
jumping
a
on.
little glammy.
Yeah, they all did it right at the same time, and it just really opened the doors more for the heavier stuff to come in because we were
Right.
all like, "Fuck this! We want our bands to get heavier." We didn't want them to go more in that direction, but they came back around just like Priest did, and a lot of other bands. They just I don't like it
Absolutely.
when they jump on the trends like that, though.
Right. So yeah, I other than that, I guess all I gotta say is that Ozzy and Black Sabbath have always been huge for me, influence wise, musically and personally. And man, Ozzy's music has gotten me through so much awful shit in my life. And I feel like, and I know it's weird probably to hear, but I feel like I lost a fucking family member yesterday. I
Yeah.
really do. I feel like I lost a mentor. I feel like I lost an immediate family member. I feel like I lost a teacher. And I feel like I lost a best friend because every time I had a fucking bad time in my life, every time I felt like I didn't want to be here anymore, Every time I felt like I just didn't want to exist, every time I fucking dealt with some kind of abuse in my life, I put on a Black Sabbath album or an Ozzy album, and everything kind of fucking just melted away. And life was better for that half hour, 45 minutes, whatever. And I feel like I lost a fucking best friend. And
Yeah.
I just want to say, fucking whoever's watching this, thank you, Ozzy Osbourne. Thank you, Black Sabbath. Thank you to every member that's ever been in the Ozzy band. It's been one hell of a fucking ride, man. It's been one hell of a ride. Ozzy was the motherfucking man. And that's all I can say about that. He was the motherfucking man. I
Yeah,
love
he
my
was a
panel. I love you guys. Ovi, Count Ralphus, Ed Farsty, Christian, my boy from Connecticut, Miles, Tony Dio, thank you for being on tonight. John McInty, thank you for being on tonight. This was a great episode. Please like and subscribe. Please leave your
yeah.
comments. What are your favorite Ozzy albums with Sabbath and solo? What are your favorite memories seeing him live? How did Ozzy affect your life? Please leave comments. Please repost all that good stuff. Um, yeah. Cheers. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. We fucking love you so much. Have a good night, everybody.